Chapter 1639. As the saying goes, the dragon has 9 sons, but the 9 sons are different. The dragon mentioned here was not an ordinary dragon, but the most powerful true dragon. Since the beginning of the world, the number of true dragons could be counted on one hand. It was precisely because true dragons were too rare, and at the same time, it was difficult to find a second true dragon. Therefore, true dragons usually gave birth to offspring after mating with other races. This was why there was a saying that the dragon had 9 sons. Descendants born from different races would naturally be different. The 9 sons of the true dragon were all famous holy beasts. Eldest Chunyo 2nd Yazi 3rd Chao Feng 4th Paleo 5th Yazi 6th Yazi 7th Yazi 8th Yazi 9th Yazi Kiss. As the second son of the true dragon great emperor, the Yazi was naturally very terrifying, and its bloodline inheritance was abnormally powerful. However, the Yazi's temperament was cruel, and if there was even a small grudge, the Yazi would take revenge. This was also the origin of the idiom, revenge for the smallest grievance. It described the small grudge between 2 parties, but they would still be retaliated against. In the secular world, the Yazi's status was actually very high. Because of its cruel character, it was filled with ferocity. So many people would use the Yazi's portrait to ward off evil spirits and ghosts. For example, during the New Year, there were 2 pictures of houses pasted on the door, and one of them was a drawing of a Yazi. In addition, the Yazi was used the most in the weapons of the soldiers in the secular world. These weapons were often drawn with the Yazi's image in order to suppress the evil spirits. After all, when 2 armies fought, countless casualties would be caused, and it was very easy for evil spirits to be born. However, after the soldiers' weapons were drawn with the Yazi's image, even if evil spirits were born, those things would not dare to approach the soldiers. In the past, Lin Feng had only heard of the Yazi's name from myths and legends. Now that he finally saw the legendary Yazi, his heart was filled with shock. He completely concealed himself and even stopped breathing because he was worried that he would be discovered by the 5 Yazis. Once they discovered him, he would probably die. This kind of famous evil beast killed people without batting an eye. Hungry. For more than 40 million years, I haven't eaten a full day. I'm really hungry. A Yazi said. Then let's eat our fill. The second Yazi said sinisterly. Among the 5 Yazis, the 5th was called Ao Zhong, the 6th was Ao Hua, the 7th was Ao Xian, the 8th was Ao Shang, and the 9th was Ao Ba. Although they had been trapped for more than 40 million years, and their cultivation had dropped significantly, this was only relative to their peak. Now, these 5 Yazis were still unimaginably terrifying. From the fact that they could float in midair and not be affected by the restrictions of the valley, it was obvious how terrifying these 5 Yazis were. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The 5 Yazis quickly rushed out of the valley. Lay long. Hee hee hee, it's just an appetizer. The 5 Yazis let out sinister cries. They separated into 5 different directions and floated in midair. They opened their bloody mouths and suddenly inhaled. Hoo 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 hoo. Violent winds swept across the world. A terrifying, devouring power surged out and enveloped the hundreds of lightning dragons within it. The lightning dragons flew uncontrollably toward the 5 Yazis. Roar, roar, roar. The lightning dragons let out terrified cries as they struggled frantically. They wanted to break free from the 5 Yazis devouring, but it was useless. The 5 Yazis were too powerful. They were simply undefeatable. The hundreds of lightning dragons were instantly devoured by the 5 Yazis. It's so comfortable. But I'm still hungry. There are still many creatures on the island. Then let's continue eating. It's enough for us to eat until we're 30% full. The 5 Yazis quickly flew toward the periphery of the island. They continued to open their bloody mouths and devour the creatures on the island. Many powerful beasts were devoured by them. Many beasts noticed that something was wrong and wanted to escape from the island. You can't escape. Be devoured by us. Hee hee. The 5 Yazis let out strange laughter and continued to open their bloody mouths to devour the beasts that tried to escape. None of the beasts were able to escape. They were all devoured by the Yazis. Whoosh! The snake empress rushed out of the huge tree and fled into the distance. Even someone as powerful as the Snake Empress didn't dare to fight the 5 Yazis. Golden-crowned silver snake? A demon snake with the bloodline of a sacred beast. Not bad, not bad. Be devoured by us. After seeing the Snake Empress, the 5 Yazis finally showed a trace of excitement. The stronger the bloodline they devoured, the faster they recovered. If they could devour the Snake Empress, it would be more effective than devouring all the beasts on the island. The 5 Yazis quickly chased after the Snake Empress and waved their huge claws across the void to grab the escaping Snake Empress. 5 sharp claws condensed in the void. Pooh, 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 pooh. The 5 sharp claws directly scratched the Snake Empress's body until it was dripping with blood. A large piece of flesh was torn off. Hiss! When Lin Feng saw that, he took a deep breath. He knew clearly how terrifying the Snake Empress was. Back then, he had attacked the Snake Empress with all his strength at such a close distance. But the Snake Empress hadn't been harmed at all. Not even a mark was left on the Snake Empress's scales. This showed how powerful the Snake Empress was. Her defense was terrifying. However, when the 5 Yazis attacked, the Snake Empress's defense was so weak that it couldn't even withstand a single blow. Of course, Lin Feng also knew that it wasn't that the Snake Empress was weak. It was that the 5 Yazis were too terrifying. This was the son of the true dragon Great Emperor. 5 abnormally strong existences. After smelling the Snake Empress's blood, the 5 Yazis became even more excited. They let out strange cries and increased their speed, wanting to kill the Snake Empress in one fell swoop. Huff! The Snake Empress suddenly turned her head and spat out a ball of light green gas. The void was instantly corroded. Not good. This is the origin poison. It will harm the origin. Retreat. Facing the move that the Snake Empress would only use when she was desperate, the 5 Yazis didn't dare to be careless. They quickly retreated and avoided the Snake Empress's origin poison. The Snake Empress tore through the void and escaped. She can't escape. Chase. The 5 Yazis cried out sinisterly. They also tore through the void and quickly disappeared. The 5 Yazis clearly wouldn't rest until they killed the Snake Empress. Although the Snake Empress was powerful, she was probably doomed after being targeted by the 5 Yazis. How terrifying. At that moment, Lin Feng walked out of his hiding place. He couldn't help but take a deep breath and sigh. The strength of the 5 Yazis. He was deeply shocked. Even the Snake Empress didn't have the strength to resist. He really didn't know what level the 5 Yazis were at now. We can't stay here for long. Let's go. Lin Feng rushed outside, leaving the valley and rushing out of the island. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Not long after Lin Feng left, black shadows flew out of the black hole. Half an hour later, the 8 trigrams automatically closed again, sealing the black hole. It feels so good to come out. Gloomy voices echoed between heaven and earth. Chapter 1640. The netherworld sea was boundless, with no end in sight. Lin Feng flew for a long time, but he still couldn't see a cultivation country or a gathering place for cultivators. Finally, he landed in the middle of a cluster of islands. There were many islands here, but none of them were very large. Lin Feng discovered a few strange fish here. This was a type of fish that was the color of crystal. It was called the deep-sea blue crystal fish. Feng Feng had read about this type of fish in the classic of mountains and seas before. This type of fish contained a very special kind of crystal that could greatly increase a cultivator's spiritual energy. Therefore, when Lin Feng saw the deep-sea blue crystal fish, he decided to practice cultivation there for a while. He opened up a cave on one of the islands. Then, he began to enter the sea to catch deep-sea blue crystal fish. But what made Lin Feng rather depressed was that catching deep-sea blue crystal fish was too difficult. These deep-sea blue crystal fish could always disappear without a trace. Catching them in the sea was obviously not feasible. Perhaps I can set up some traps. Lin Feng rubbed his chin. He felt that this method was feasible. He could use traps to catch deep-sea blue crystal fish. But if he wanted to set up a trap, he would need bait. Lin Feng thought about the deep-sea blue crystal fish's characteristics recorded in the classic of mountains and seas. Deep-sea blue crystal fish's diet consisted mainly of crystals and spirit stones. This type of fish was very special. They wouldn't eat vegetation, nor would they eat other fish. Origin crystals should be very attractive to these deep-sea blue crystal fish, right? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He set up a trap in the shallow waters. First, he inserted a dozen or so formation flags into the sand. Then, he set up a large formation. Finally, he placed a few origin crystals. As long as the deep-sea blue crystal fish entered the range of the formation, it would activate. Then, the formation would activate. He caught deep-sea blue crystal fish. This method was quite good. The next day, when Lin Feng arrived at the beach, he found that he had caught more than 20 deep-sea blue crystal fish. He cut open the bellies of the deep-sea blue crystal fish and took out their crystals, then boiled them into a pot of fish soup. It was extremely delicious. Bibi and the dragon rabbit ate happily. Their stomachs were round, and after they finished eating, the two little fellows started playing and chasing each other on the island. Lin Feng, on the other hand, returned to the cave mansion and began to refine the fish crystal. Is it really as effective as the rumors say? Looking at the fish crystal in his hand, Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. Then he began to refine these fish crystals. The energy stored in the fish crystal was gradually absorbed by Lin Feng. Immediately after, Lin Feng felt that his soul force was actually growing crazily. This made Lin Feng very happy. These fish crystals were very effective. For the next 3 months, Lin Feng had been catching deep-sea blue crystal fish in this area. His soul force had achieved a tremendous breakthrough. First, it broke through to the 4th level of the divine fire realm. Immediately after, he broke through to the 5th firmament of the divine fire realm. Of course, during this time, Lin Feng had done many things. For example, he had refined the 3 toxic puppets again. The 3 toxic puppets had all reached the peak of the void god realm. As for the deity realm clone, his cultivation base had risen to the 6th firmament of the divine fire realm. As for Lin Feng's own cultivation base, he had finally broken through to the 7th firmament of the void god realm. With Lin Feng's powerful accumulation, every time he broke through, his combat power would increase by an unimaginable amount. During this time, Lin Feng found that he was able to absorb more and more faith energy. This made him very satisfied. Clearly, the astral beast had stayed on the Tianwu continent and helped him build many temples. Lin Feng's cultivation base had been able to break through so quickly because of his talent, his fortuitous encounters, and the faith energy he had devoured. He had been devouring faith energy every day. Even if he didn't cultivate, his cultivation base would continue to rise. Yeah. Bibi and the dragon rabbit had returned to the island from outside. They were bouncing and jumping in front of Lin Feng, waving their little paws as they spoke. "There's a palace in the sea?" asked Lin Feng. The two of them immediately nodded. Lin Feng continued, "Didn't I tell you not to casually enter the sea? Be careful of the sea beasts eating you." The two of them immediately lowered their heads, looking extremely wronged. Recently, the two of them had become more and more daring. Originally, they had only been playing on the island, but now they had begun to explore the mysterious sea. Lin Feng was naturally worried about their safety, but when he saw their pitiful appearances, he couldn't help it. He didn't have the heart to blame these two little fellows. "Take me to see the palace," said Lin Feng. The two of them hastily nodded and flew into the sea. 10 nautical miles away from a small island, the two little guys stopped. They pointed downwards. Lin Feng raised an energy barrier, protecting the two of them. Then, they quickly dove downwards. The sea was very deep. After diving for more than 40,000 meters, they reached the bottom. Lin Feng saw a gigantic ancient city. Inside the city, there were many palaces and palaces. A kingdom in the sea? He was very surprised. It was just that the kingdom in the sea had long since been destroyed. In the past, there should have been a sea civilization here, but for some reason, it had been destroyed. Lin Feng descended into the city and saw a huge statue of a god standing in the plaza. This was a very strange creature of the oceanic race. It had 8 arms, each of which held a weapon. Its face was ferocious and ugly. This was the first time Lin Feng had seen such a statue. He didn't know what kind of god this country worshipped. Lin Feng guessed that this was a sea god. Among the sea gods, The most famous one was naturally Poseidon. However, there were many races in the sea, and there were many sea gods. Many of the sea creatures didn't believe in Poseidon. It was as if the civilization in front of him didn't believe in Poseidon. This underwater civilization doesn't seem to have experienced a great war. Everything is well preserved. Why? Did the people here disappear without a trace? Lin Feng walked around the city. He went to many places and found that every place was well preserved and undamaged. However, it was because of this that Lin Feng found it strange. What happened here in the past? He muttered to himself. Yeah. Bibi pointed in a direction. Lin Feng looked at it and saw a blue light flash through the air. He was very surprised. What was that? He quickly chased after it, but he didn't find anything. Chapter 1641. The ancient nation was very quiet, so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Perhaps he had really seen wrongly just now. Normally, Lin Feng wouldn't find it strange if something unexplainable happened in an ancient nation that had been silent for many years. He headed straight for the imperial palace, wondering if he could find the treasury there. He also wondered if there were any other treasures in the treasury. If there were really treasures in an ancient underwater nation, it would be a shocking amount of wealth. Lin Feng arrived at the imperial palace. It was a magnificent palace with endless palaces. The first thing he saw after entering the palace was a huge hall. This hall should be equivalent to the throne room of the human clan in the secular world. It was also where the emperor would hold morning court. Civil and military officials. They were divided into 2 rows. Lin Feng strolled around the golden imperial hall and found a jade seal. The jade seal itself was a powerful treasure, and it was actually a divine artifact. Lin Feng was shocked. Even the jade seal is placed on the table. Everyone in the ancient nation seems to have disappeared in an instant. Lin Feng felt that something was wrong with the ancient nation. He had a vague feeling of unease. Bei Bei and Dragon Rabbit were still as carefree as ever as they ran around the hall. They were still young. Perhaps in their eyes, everything in front of them was very fun. They were indeed at the age to have fun. After leaving the hall, Lin Feng headed deeper into the palace. If there was a treasury in an ordinary palace, the treasury would be located in the depths of the palace. In the end, Lin Feng found the treasury. It was a huge courtyard with a huge hall. It was over 300 meters tall and covered more than 40 mu of land. The door to the treasury had been sealed for an unknown number of years. It emitted a cold luster. This door is made of netherworld frost iron. Damn, how extravagant. This is a material used to forge a giant divine artifact. How many giant divine artifacts can be forged with this material? Lin Feng exclaimed when he saw the pitch-black door. Divine weapons were divided into virtual divine weapons, divine fire weapons, true divine weapons, sky divine weapons, and giant divine weapons. Above that would be quasi-emperor weapons. Emperor weapons? Lin Feng's great desolate war spear was a giant divine weapon, and its power was heaven-defying. A treasure at the level of a giant divine soldier was definitely an incredible treasure even in the entire universe. Very few people could take it out. And the door of this ancient undersea country's treasury was actually made of 9 nether cold iron, which could be used to forge giant soldier gods. Obviously, this ancient country must have been extremely powerful in the past. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so extravagant. Later, we'll remove the door as well. We can't waste such a precious item. Lin Feng muttered in his heart. He pushed hard against the door. Whoosh! At this time, many bubbles appeared behind Lin Feng. A blue light flashed within the bubble. Immediately after, a woman appeared and slapped her palm towards Lin Feng. Feeling the killing intent coming from behind him, Lin Feng turned around and struck out with his palm. Bang! The 2 sides collided, and the woman was sent flying by Lin Feng. Obviously, although she had sneak-attacked Lin Feng, there was still a big gap between Lin Feng's cultivation and Lin Feng's. Lin Feng was as fast as lightning. He instantly arrived in front of the woman and was about to strike her with his palm. But when he saw the woman, Lin Feng's mouth opened wide in shock. This woman had a head of beautiful light blue hair that draped over her shoulders. Her figure was slim and slender, and her towering twin peaks were covered by a white gauze dress. She had a face that was so beautiful that it could take one's breath away. What touched Lin Feng the most was that pair of blue eyes that were like the Mediterranean Sea. They were so pure that one couldn't bear to hurt her. But what surprised Lin Feng the most was not the woman's beautiful face. It was the lower half of her body, which was actually not a human body. The lower half of her body was very slender and had a perfect curve. This was the body of a fish. The woman in front of him was actually a mermaid. Lin Feng had heard of mermaids before, but he had never seen one before. The mermaid race was a very special race. According to legends, mermaids were born in the deepest part of the sea. They were born in the deep blue sea. The mermaid race only had women and no men. In the past, Lin Feng had even read a story about mermaids. The story went like this: at the very, very deep bottom of the sea, there was a majestic castle. Inside it lived 6 mermaid princesses. They were all very beautiful, especially the youngest princess. She had long blonde hair and was prettier than her sisters. She loved to listen to her sisters talk about the sea. Because of this, the little princess always wanted to go to the sea one day and see it for herself. She waited and waited. On the little princess's 15th birthday, she quietly swam to the surface of the sea. There was a very large ship on the sea, and many people were holding a grand birthday banquet on the ship. The people on the ship raised their cups and congratulated him. "Prince, happy birthday to you." That prince was awe-inspiring and handsome. The mermaid princess was also captivated by him. But, suddenly, a gust of wind blew the ship over. The prince fell into the sea and floated on the surface. "Oh no! If we don't hurry and save the prince, his life will be in danger." The mermaid princess spent a lot of effort to save the prince. "Prince, wake up." The mermaid princess touched the prince's hand and said. At this time, the mermaid princess heard footsteps approaching and hid behind a rock. It was a girl. She was shocked to see the prince lying on the beach. Under her careful care, the prince quickly woke up. The prince smiled at the girl and said, "Thank you. You saved my life." The mermaid princess was very sad when she heard this. "Prince, I am the one who saved you." The mermaid princess could not forget the prince. Because she was a mermaid, she could not get close to the prince. So every night, she would swim outside the castle and look at the prince from afar. The mermaid princess said to herself, "I really want to become a human." Thus, the mermaid princess asked the witch to help her achieve her wish. The witch said, "I have a way to turn you into a human. But when your tail turns into legs, it will be as painful as being cut by a knife when you walk. Also, if the prince marries someone else, you will turn into bubbles and die. Also, if you want to become a human, you will have to pay me. You will have to give me your beautiful voice." "Okay, as long as I can be by the prince's side, I don't care about anything else." Thus, the mermaid princess swam to the shore of the castle and drank the witch's medicine. Her body felt very uncomfortable and she fainted. After an unknown period of time, the mermaid princess' tail slowly split into 2 legs. "Miss, what happened to you?" When the mermaid princess slowly opened her eyes, the person in front of her was the prince. However, the mermaid princess could not answer because she had already given her voice to the witch. The prince brought the mermaid princess back to the castle and dressed her in beautiful clothes. "She is really a beauty." The people in the castle all praised the mermaid princess' beauty. Although the mermaid princess could not speak or sing, her beautiful dance attracted everyone's attention. However, no one knew that the mermaid princess endured the pain in her legs to entertain the prince and everyone else. The prince treated the mermaid princess like a sister and took care of her in every possible way. One day, the prince brought the mermaid princess to the neighboring country. It was the place where he was saved when he fell into the sea. The prince went to meet the girl. The prince was very happy and said, "My life was saved by her, so I want to marry her." "No, no, prince, I saved you," the mermaid princess shouted, but the prince still could not hear her. The prince finally married the girl. On the ship back home, the mermaid princess cried sadly. At this time, the voices of her sisters came from the sea. "In order to save you, we went to the witch and used our hair to exchange for this sword. You can use it to kill the prince. Use the prince's blood on your feet, and you will turn back into a mermaid." You have to have the courage to do it. Otherwise, you will turn into bubbles and die tomorrow morning. The mermaid princess made up her mind to enter the prince's bedroom when he was asleep. However, looking at the prince's peaceful face, she could not do it. At dawn, the mermaid princess said to herself on the deck, "Prince, goodbye." Thus, the mermaid princess body slowly turned into many colorful bubbles. The light of dawn shone on the bubble, and the figure of the mermaid princess seemed to be faintly discernible in the bubble as it rose. My cute sister, where did she go? The prince was looking everywhere for the mermaid princess. The mermaid princess, who turned into air, only looked at the prince and flew into the depths of the pink clouds with satisfaction. Of course, Lin Feng could not be sure of the authenticity of this story. However, the story of the mermaid princess had been passed down. When Lin Feng saw such a beautiful mermaid with his own eyes, he could not help but feel shocked and moved. "So beautiful!" Lin Feng exclaimed. The mermaid sent a palm towards Lin Feng. She wanted to take Lin Feng's life. Lin Feng stretched out his hand and grabbed the mermaid's palm. Then, he pressed the mermaid against the wall with his other hand, making her unable to move. "Despicable human, let go of me." The mermaid looked at Lin Feng fiercely. "You can speak human language?" Lin Feng was shocked. However, the mermaid did not say anything else. Her beautiful eyes looked coldly at Lin Feng. The mermaid seemed to hate Lin Feng very much. This made Lin Feng feel very strange. He asked, "I didn't provoke you? Why do you want to kill me?" "You despicable outsiders, trying to capture our mermaid sisters. None of you are good people," the mermaid said coldly. Human nature was often greedy, and mermaids were so beautiful that they would definitely attract the interest of many people. For profit, many people would take the risk to capture mermaids and then sell them. Those mermaids who were sold would be raised in captivity, and many mermaids would be wantonly played with by those big shots. Their fates were very tragic. It was no wonder that the mermaid hated people from other races so much. Chapter 1642. Lin Feng said, "You can't just kill everyone, right? Take me for example. You ambushed me and tried to kill me, but I didn't kill you in the end." The mermaid harumphed. "Who knows what kind of dirty thoughts you're harboring?" Lin Feng wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He hadn't done anything, yet he was being called dirty. He felt even more wrong than Doi. However, when faced with this beautiful mermaid, Lin Feng thought to himself, "Who asked me to be such a tender and protective person? I'll just forgive her." Lin Feng said, "I can let you go right now, but don't attack me again." The mermaid looked at Lin Feng in disbelief and asked, "You'll really let me go?" "Of course." Lin Feng nodded and released the mermaid. The mermaid was clearly very surprised after being freed. She looked deeply at Lin Feng and said, "You're quite different from the foreigners I've met in the past." Lin Feng asked, "What's different?" The mermaid thought for a moment and said, "You're a good person." Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Had he been given a good person card? Fortunately, the mermaid's good person card was different from the good person card he usually received. Lin Feng asked, "What's your name?" "Angel." "You're pretty, and your name is nice as well." Lin Feng couldn't help but praise her. Angel's pretty face reddened slightly, and she asked, "What's your name?" "Lin Feng." Angel then asked, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Lin Feng replied, "I came from the other side of the ocean on the Nine States Alliance's fleet. I originally wanted to go to the Nine States, but I was attacked by the mermaids. The fleet was destroyed, and many people fled in all directions. I found a place to cultivate in seclusion for a while, and I plan to find a cultivation nation on the ocean and think of a way to go to the Nine States." So that's how it is. This is the Nether Sea, and there are very few cultivation nations on the ocean. However, it's not like there aren't any. I heard from my elders that there's a Nether Sea divine nation in the Nether Sea, but I don't know where it is. Angel said. In order to avoid being captured, the mermaids usually hid in the depths of the ocean. They rarely appeared in other places. Angel's age of the mermaids was still quite young, so she had only heard about many things in the outside world. She had never seen it for herself. Said Lin Feng. "Thank you very much, Angel. Since I know there's a real cultivation country on the sea, I'll definitely find it someday. I didn't help you much, so you don't have to thank me. Angel waved her hand. Lin Feng asked, how did you end up in this ancient city? Angel replied, I vaguely heard a voice calling out to me, so I swam over and saw this ancient city. Not long after I arrived, I saw you enter. At this point, Angel lowered her head in embarrassment. She was clearly thinking about her sneak attack on Lin Feng. It seemed that she didn't dare to face Lin Feng anymore. Lin Feng knew that Angel was actually very kind. He could see her kindness from her pure eyes. However, in the past few years, many cultivators had captured mermaids, causing great harm to the mermaids. Ever since she was young, Angel had heard her elders talk about the greed and evil of foreign cultivators. In addition, over the years, she had seen some of her sisters being taken away. She was both afraid and hateful of foreign cultivators. That was why she had attacked Lin Feng. Angel, step back a little. I'll push open this door and see what's hidden in this treasury. Lin Feng said. Angel said, the voice that called me over came from this treasury. You must be careful. Lin Feng nodded and said, don't worry, I'll be careful. Then, he arrived in front of the door and pushed open the 2 doors made of 9 nether cold iron. When the door was pushed open, all that could be seen inside was colorful and dazzling. All kinds of treasures were piled up like a mountain. Deep sea night pearl, water-repelling pearl, jellyfish stone, frost iron. There were countless treasures piled up here, and many of them were treasures that could only be found in the deep sea. It was rare to see them on land. Wow, I'm rich. Lin Feng's eyes immediately lit up. Angel looked at the treasures with a calm expression. The mermaids lived in the deep sea region. Therefore, their clan had collected too many treasures of all kinds. It was rumored that the palace where the mermaids lived was paved with pearls and decorated with all kinds of treasures. It was magnificent. Therefore, the treasures in the treasury were not attractive to Angel. Lin Feng did not directly collect the treasures. Instead, he began to remove the door of the treasury. The 2 doors were over 100 meters tall. They were made of 9 nether cold iron. Such a treasure. How precious was it? If he wanted to collect it, he would naturally have to collect these 2 doors first. Angel asked curiously, what are you doing? Lin Feng scratched his head awkwardly and said, I think the material of this door is not bad. It's too wasteful to leave it here. After removing it, I'll carry it home. It might be useful in the future. Angel was very innocent and did not doubt Lin Feng's words. After Lin Feng removed the 2 doors, he was overjoyed. In the future, he would find a powerful refiner and have him cut open the 2 doors and forge them into giant divine weapons. This would be able to forge at least 100 giant divine weapons, right? Using 100 giant divine weapons to form an elite team. At that time, even if a quasi-emperor level expert came, he would have to retreat. He would not be able to defeat a quasi-emperor in a one-on-one battle. A group of experts using giant divine weapons to gang up on a quasi-emperor. Would they not be able to defeat him? Lin Feng was immersed in this beautiful fantasy. However, he quickly retracted his thoughts and entered the treasury. He looked at Angel and said, if there's anything you like, feel free to take it. There's no need to be courteous with me. This guy had already regarded the treasures in the treasury as his wealth. Angel shook her head and did not choose any treasure. Instead, she watched as Lin Feng collected the treasures in the various halls. After passing through the 18 halls, Lin Feng and Angel arrived outside the hall in the deepest part of the treasury. This hall's door was tightly shut. On top of the restriction, there were also densely packed formation patterns. While Lin Feng was studying the formation runes, Angel suddenly hugged her head and cried out in pain. Angel, what's wrong? Lin Feng hurriedly supported Angel, who was on the verge of collapse, and asked worriedly, my head hurts. Inside. There's something inside. Angel's face was pale as she pointed at the door. There was something inside the hall that was affecting Angel. Is it the thing that summoned Angel here? What was it that had summoned Angel? Why did it summon Angel here? Lin Feng's expression was uncertain as he looked at the tightly shut door of the hall. Rumble. Suddenly, the tightly shut door, which was densely covered in formation runes, began to shake violently. Chapter 1643. The door shook more and more violently. Lin Feng and Angel stared at the door. The door was obviously opening by itself. It was extremely strange. At this time, Angel's face regained some color. Only then did Lin Feng let go of her. There's something wrong with this palace. When the palace opens later, don't go in. Just watch from the outside. I'll go in and see what's going on, Lin Feng said. Angel nodded. Rumble, rumble. The door violently rubbed against the ground and opened to both sides. Finally, the door opened. In the deepest part of the palace, it was pitch black. Furthermore, there was a mist that filled the air. A cold aura surged out from it. Lin Feng felt goosebumps all over his body. He looked at the palace with a serious expression. He didn't see anything strange from the outside, so he walked in. Angel stayed outside. Stepping into the palace, Lin Feng realized that the palace was very big. There were thick pillars inside. There were a total of 18 pillars. Crack, crack. Suddenly, Lin Feng heard the sound of cracking under his feet. He lowered his head. He found that there were many skeletons scattered on the ground. Lin Feng lowered his head to observe the skeletons. He immediately noticed something different. These skeletons, they were all slender. Obviously, these were the skeletons of women. So many women have died here? Lin Feng's heart trembled slightly. This place was too strange. He didn't know why so many women had died. He stood up and walked towards the first huge pillar. He found that there seemed to be something tied up by chains on the first pillar. When he got closer, he saw it. What was tied to it was actually a skeleton, and it was the skeleton of a mermaid. On the pillar, there were densely packed runes. Those runes emitted an evil power. It's an evil sacrificial rune. What kind of terrifying thing is using mermaids as a sacrifice? Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. He turned around and rushed out of the palace. At this moment, Angel let out a scream from outside. A ball of black fog flew out and rolled towards Angel. What the hell is this? Get out of my way, Lin Feng shouted as he sent a palm strike towards that mass of black chi. Kikik, brat, who do you think you are? How dare you ruin my plans? A gloomy voice came from the black fog. Immediately after, a blurry figure appeared in the black fog, and a palm shot towards Lin Feng. Bang! The two sides collided, and Lin Feng was immediately sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Hurry up and run away. Don't care about me, Angel's weak voice sounded. Lin Feng got up and wanted to escape, but in the end, he gritted his teeth and didn't leave. As a man, if he ran away now, would he still be a man? Even if he managed to escape, Lin Feng felt that this matter would become an inner demon that would hinder his cultivation for the rest of his life. Thus, he didn't run away. Instead, he took out 3 heavenly fires and sent them towards the black fog. The creature in the black fog was clearly a soul body. Although it was powerful, it didn't have a physical body. As long as it didn't have a physical body, no matter how powerful it would have a fatal weakness. The physical body was the foundation of cultivation. Without a physical body, one would be like a rootless duckweed. Heavenly fire? 3 types of heavenly fire? You're dreaming if you think you can use heavenly fire to deal with me. That blurry existence let out a series of sinister laughter. He waved his hand and an endless amount of black smoke appeared, blotting out the sky and moving towards Lin Feng's celestial fire. It blocked the heavenly fire's attack. Then, he threw a punch at Lin Feng from afar. Bang! Lin Feng's chest was hit by an invisible force. Crack! Crack! His chest caved in, and he coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood. Lin Feng, hurry up and run. Angel's eyes twitched violently when she saw Lin Feng heavily injured. An unprecedented emotion welled up in her heart. It was a complicated emotion. Sadness. Touching. There was also another emotion that she couldn't quite put her finger on. Lin Feng wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and chuckled. If you leave now, can you still be considered a man? Brat, you have quite a backbone. I'm even a little reluctant to kill you now. If you kneel on the ground and swear to become my slave, I'll spare your life. How about it? The being in the black fog looked at Lin Feng with sinister eyes. Lin Feng sneered. Who do you think you are? Do you think you can become my master? You're courting death. You're courting death. You dare to say such reckless words to this god? You are blaspheming the majesty of a god. The being in the black fog's voice turned extremely cold. Then, his body began to appear. Lin Feng finally got a good look at what kind of creature it was. The creature had 8 arms. His face was sinister and ugly. Aside from the hands, the 8 arms were not holding any weapons. They were actually the same as the statue in the ancient underwater kingdom's plaza. Lin Feng shouted in horror. Are you the god that this ancient underwater kingdom worships? That's right. I'm the 8-armed sea god. I'm a high and mighty god that countless Oceanids worship. Why don't you kneel and kowtow to me and beg for forgiveness for your foolish actions? The 8-armed sea god's sinister voice rang out. Lin Feng's expression flickered. This fellow was actually the 8-armed sea god? Lin Feng hadn't expected this at all. However, this fellow's aura was extremely evil, and he had sacrificed so many mermaids. Clearly, he wasn't a good person. Even if he was a god, Lin Feng guessed that he was at least an evil god. He looked at the 8-armed sea god and said, It's not impossible for me to submit to you, but you have to answer a few of my questions first. The 8-armed sea god immediately said impatiently, Why do you have so much nonsense to say? If you want to ask something, hurry up and ask. Where did the people of this ancient underwater kingdom go? Lin Feng asked. Kikik. The 8-armed sea god cackled. Lin Feng's heart trembled. Had they been devoured by the 8-armed sea god? You ate them? Lin Feng took a deep breath and asked. They are my subjects. They sacrificed themselves to save me. It's their honor. The 8-armed sea god said sinisterly. Then why did you sacrifice the mermaids? Lin Feng continued asking. The 8-armed sea god said, I've been cursed, and it's the most terrifying curse. I'll be reincarnated once every 1,000,000 years. Only the purest mermaid blood can temporarily dispel the curse during the 1,000,000 years of reincarnation. Once the curse is dispelled, I'll be able to move freely for 100 years. 100 years later, the curse will erupt again, and I'll have no choice but to return to this palace and hibernate. Then, I'll have to wait for another 1,000,000 years of reincarnation. Chapter 1644. Curse. What a good one. Why didn't the curse kill him? Lin Feng muttered inwardly. Instead of killing the 8-armed sea god, he had left behind such a terrifying scourge. Of course, Lin Feng didn't say that out loud. He then asked his third question. Who cursed you? The 8-armed sea god roared furiously when he heard Lin Feng's question. Asterisk roar. Asterisk as he roared, the entire world trembled. The entire underwater world trembled violently. Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. So what if the sea god was angry? Was there a need to cause such a huge commotion? There were only 3 of them here. Everyone knew that the sea god was amazing. Could you please stop acting tough? Who did this to me? Who did this to me? Who did this to me? The 8-armed sea god roared again and again. With a ferocious expression, he said, It was the sea god Poseidon. That despicable and shameless bastard. He cursed me. If not for my vigilance, I would have been killed by Poseidon back then. I will never forget what happened back then. The 8-armed sea god stopped at this point and didn't continue. Lin Feng had been listening with great interest, but the sea god had stopped talking. Lin Feng was naturally displeased. He said, Continue. Why did you have a conflict with the sea god Poseidon? Why did the sea god Poseidon curse you? The 8-armed sea god looked furiously at Lin Feng and sneered, Lowly ant, you already know enough. This god has no time to waste on you. Kneel down and acknowledge this god as your master. Otherwise, this god will take your life immediately. Did I say that I would acknowledge you as my master? Lin Feng said indifferently. The 8-armed sea god's expression turned gloomy. He said coldly, You said that you would acknowledge me as your master if I answered a few of your questions. Are you trying to go back on your word now? Lin Feng said, Is there anyone who can testify? If you don't have a witness, please don't slander me here. Lin Feng turned hostile and refused to admit it. The eight-armed sea god flew into a rage. He sneered and said, "Brat, how dare you trick me? Do you know the price for doing that? So what if I tricked you?" Lin Feng pursed his lips. "This god will make you wish you were dead." The eight-armed Neptune roared and quickly rushed towards Lin Feng. He raised his right hand and blasted a palm towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng did not retreat. His body began to burn. Everything in this world has a cause and effect. Now, I have burned 1,000,000 years of my lifespan to summon the power of karma that is slumbering in this world. Low voices could be heard one after another. Lin Feng's lifespan began to burn crazily. He knew very well how terrifying the eight-armed sea god was. Right now, the only thing that could suppress the eight-armed sea god was perhaps the supreme Buddhist technique, the great karma art. Buddhist techniques were inherently the bane of yin and evil beings. The eight-armed sea god did not have a physical body, so he was essentially a ghostly cultivator. Ghostly cultivators were yin and evil beings. The great karma art was not only a Buddhist technique, but it was also a heaven-defying Grand Tao ranked third amongst the 3,000 Grand Das. It contained the Grand Tao of karma. Lin Feng had not hesitated to burn 1,000,000 years of his lifespan in order to unleash the full power of the great karma art. Lin Feng was worried that the power of the great karma art would not be enough. If that happened, it would be very difficult for him to deal with the eight-armed sea god. The eight-armed sea god would definitely not give him a second chance to use the great karma art. Thus, he had burned 1,000,000 years of his lifespan. This way, he could ensure that the great karma art's full power could be unleashed. After the causal power collided with the attack of the eight-armed sea god, it resisted the attack of the eight-armed sea god. The eight-armed sea god was powerful. However, he was still just a soul. Now, he was completely suppressed by Lin Feng's great karma art. He was unable to unleash his full power. This is the great karma art. You actually know the great karma art. Kid, what is your relationship with the monks of the great Thunderclap Temple? The eight-armed sea god was shocked when he sensed the power of the great karma art. He did not dare to take it head-on and tried to retreat. At the same time, he roared repeatedly, trying to figure out Lin Feng's identity. At a time like this, Lin Feng naturally could not allow the eight-armed sea god to pull away from him. Once he pulled away, the eight-armed sea god would be able to attack him from a very far distance away. In terms of magic power, he would definitely not be a match for the eight-armed sea god. Thus, Lin Feng quickly charged towards the eight-armed sea god. He did not say a word and instead used the great karma art with all his might. The power of karma that blotted out the sky all surged towards the eight-armed sea god. The power of karma enveloped the eight-armed sea god. You want to use the power of karma to deal with this god? Kid, you are still too inexperienced. This god is an undying and indestructible existence. You cannot kill me. The eight-armed sea god roared angrily. Although this guy was only a soul body, he was still unimaginably terrifying. He suddenly slashed with his hands. He actually wanted to tear apart the power of karma that Lin Feng had brought out. Lin Feng said, "Of course, I know that I cannot kill you with my strength. However, I am still confident that I can seal you." Lin Feng did not dare to delay and immediately used the void teleportation technique to wrap the eight-armed sea god, who was enveloped by the power of karma, and then directly teleported into the depths of the palace. Close. Then, Lin Feng used his magic power to wrap around the two doors and close them. Lines of runes were formed by Lin Feng and imprinted on the door. These were sealing runes. After setting up the sealing runes, Lin Feng used the Great Suppression technique at the same time. The word suppression condensed and formed. It suppressed the center of the door, becoming the center of the entire sealing runes. Little boy, you want to seal me? Impossible. Break. The furious roar of the eight-armed sea god could be heard from within the palace. Bang, bang, bang. The eight-armed sea god attacked the door from within the palace, one attack after another. The sealing runes that Lin Feng had set up became extremely unstable. Crack, crack, crack. The sealing runes actually began to crack. When he saw this, Lin Feng's expression changed greatly. The eight-armed sea god sneered, "Kid, your seal is cracking. Let's see how you die when this god leaves." Lin Feng said coldly, "Eight-armed sea god, don't be so happy just yet. With my ancestral blood." Suppression formation, Lin Feng muttered to himself as he stretched out his right hand. He forced out a drop of the sovereign's blood. The sovereign's blood dripped onto the suppression word, which was the core of the sealing formation. Instantly, the sealing formation, which had been about to crack, began to shine with divine light. The formation became extremely stable. No, why is this happening? No matter how hard the eight-armed sea god attacked the door, it did not budge. The eight-armed sea god, who was trapped within the palace, let out an unwilling roar. Lin Feng, on the other hand, could not hold on any longer. He fell to the ground, his face as pale as paper. Chapter 1645. After breaking through to the seventh firmament of the Void God realm, Lin Feng's lifespan had reached 10 million years. Burning 1,000,000 years of his lifespan at once was not a big problem for Lin Feng. However, it was only a tenth of his lifespan, so Lin Feng still felt waves of weakness sweep through his body. Angel recovered and quickly ran to Lin Feng's side. She asked with concern, "Lin Feng, are you all right?" "I'll be fine after resting for a while." Lin Feng smiled bitterly. "Ya, ya, Jia." At that moment, Bibi and Dragon Rabbit ran in. When they saw Lin Feng's pale face, they immediately cried out in worry. "I'm fine. Don't worry." Lin Feng caressed the two little ones' heads. He put Bibi and Dragon Rabbit into the small space in his mountain and river ring. Then, he said, "We can't stay here for long. Let's leave quickly." Angel nodded and said, "Then I'll help you." Lin Feng was already feeling much better, and he had even used his immortal divine body to recover from his injuries. However, since Angel wanted to help him, it would be unreasonable if he did not take advantage of it. Moreover, he was taking advantage of a mermaid. "I'll have to trouble you," Lin Feng said. Angel said, "If it wasn't for you, I would have died long ago." She stretched out her hand and helped Lin Feng up. Lin Feng's body seemed to have no strength. His entire body leaned on Angel's body, and one of his hands even hugged Angel's willowy waist. This was the first time Angel had such contact with a man. Her pretty face was pink, and her heart was beating wildly. Lin Feng discovered that Angel had a unique fragrance on her body. It was very pleasant, and he guessed that it was a fragrance unique to the mermaids. Angel and Lin Feng left the ancient underwater country. Then, they returned to the island where Lin Feng was. At this moment, Lin Feng was too embarrassed to continue hugging Angel's waist. He let go of Angel when ashore and said, "Angel, let's part ways here." Angel said, "I would like to take a look at your cultivation cave. Is that all right?" Lin Feng asked, "Aren't mermaids unable to go ashore?" "Who said we mermaids can't go ashore?" Angel asked doubtfully. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. The story of the mermaid was passed down from generation to generation, but now it seems this was simply a pure story. A lot of the information about the mermaids was fabricated. He said, "I saw it in a story." Poof. Angel immediately smiled. Angel's beauty was already breathtaking. Now, he smiled. Her beauty was unparalleled. Even Lin Feng was mesmerized by it, unable to extricate himself. Feeling Lin Feng's somewhat scorching gaze, Angel couldn't help but feel very shy in her heart. Only then did Lin Feng retract his gaze. He couldn't keep staring at a girl, right? How impolite was that? Angel flew out of the sea and landed on the shore. The lower half of her fish body had turned into a pair of slender and straight legs. These legs were long, white, and straight. Lin Feng had never seen such a beautiful pair of legs. Angel's feet were bare. Because she was originally only wearing a gauze dress, after completely transforming into a human, the gauze dress on her body could only barely cover her breasts. Such an outfit was as seductive as it could be. Angel's pretty face was pink. She lowered her head, not daring to look at Lin Feng. Obviously, she also knew that it was embarrassing to be exposed in front of Lin Feng like this. Lin Feng took out a long robe and helped Angel put it on. Then, he took out a pair of crystal shoes. This was a treasure found in the underwater world's treasury. The shoes were inlaid with 999 crystals. It was extremely beautiful. Lin Feng smiled and said, Angel, raise your foot and try to see if this shoe fits. Angel blushed and nodded. She put her small and cute right foot into the shoe and found that it fit her very well. Thus, she put on the other shoe. Angel followed Lin Feng to the cave that Lin Feng had temporarily opened up. Did you cultivate here? Angel asked curiously. Lin Feng nodded and said, because I didn't stay here for long, I didn't decorate much. It's very simple. Don't you feel lonely when you're alone? Angel asked. Lin Feng said, I'm used to it. When Angel heard Lin Feng's words, she suddenly felt a little sad. All these years, Lin Feng had experienced many things in his life. That was why he was used to being alone. In this world, what was the most terrifying thing? Loneliness was the most terrifying thing. Many people found it unbearable when faced with loneliness. In the end, they walked on another path and cut off their cultivation path. Only those who could taste loneliness could become stronger and stronger. The strong were always lonely. Angel stayed at Lin Feng's place for 3 days. Lin Feng cooked his best barbecue for Angel. It was even barbecued dragon meat. It was Angel's first time eating it. Thus, she ate with relish. On the other hand, Bei and the dragon rabbit were running around the island. On the 3rd night, a strange sound came from the depths of the sea. Lin Feng and Angel were originally sitting together and looking at the moon. After hearing that sound, Angel's expression changed slightly. Your clansman? Lin Feng asked. Angel nodded and said, it must be because I haven't returned for a while. My clansmen came out to ask about it. Now, they're making a sound that only the mermaid clan can understand. I'm going back. Lin Feng nodded and said, you must be careful in the future. Don't get caught by other races. Angel bit her red lips and nodded slightly. Lin Feng sent her to the shore. Angel jumped into the sea and turned into a mermaid. She waved at Lin Feng. Then, he dove into the sea and disappeared without a trace. Am I too much of a gentleman? I haven't even held hands with such a beautiful woman these past few days. After Angel left, Lin Feng wanted to cry but had no tears. After Angel left, Lin Feng also planned to leave this place, to find the Dark Sea Divine Kingdom that Angel had mentioned. However, Bibi and Dragon Rabbit, the 2 little fellows, had run off to who knows where. When the 2 little fellows returned, Lin Feng planned to leave this place. At noon the next day, terrifying waves of energy came from afar. Yeah. From afar, Lin Feng could hear Bibi's panicked voice. Lin Feng hurriedly rushed out of the cave, only to see Bibi shooting out a rainbow divine light that wrapped around the dragon rabbit, whose entire body was covered in blood and whose aura was weak, quickly fleeing towards them from afar. Behind him, there were more than 20 cultivators chasing after him. Chapter 1646. Seeing Bibi and Dragon Rabbit being chased, and Dragon Rabbit suffering such serious injuries, Lin Feng only felt an endless killing intent rising in his chest. Bibi and Dragon Rabbit were like his family. Dragons had reverse scales. Touching it was death. Family was Lin Feng's reverse scale. Bibi finally escaped to the island and fell into Lin Feng's arms. Yeah. The little guy was exhausted. He cried out tiredly and looked pitifully at Lin Feng. Lin Feng hurriedly took out a divine-level healing pill and fed it to Dragon Rabbit. Dragon Rabbit's injuries were stabilized, but the little guy's injuries were too severe and he was still very weak. Lin Feng gently patted the little guy's head. Go back and rest well. Lin Feng patted Bibi's head again. He sent Bibi and Dragon Rabbit into the mountain river ring. At this time, a group of cultivators who were chasing Bibi and Dragon Rabbit had already flown over. These 20 over people were actually all Deity Realm experts, and there were 4 Divine Fire Realm experts. The person in the lead should be the strongest, at the 7th level of the Divine Fire Realm. This person didn't look particularly old. He had an arrogant expression on his face and was dressed in black. That cultivator whispered to a Divine Flame Realm expert next to him. That Divine Fire Realm expert immediately replied, Yes, young Master Chong. That Divine Fire Realm expert should have received some instructions from that, young Master Chong. He walked forwards and looked at Lin Feng in a domineering way. Little boy, you're so arrogant. Those 2 spirit beasts are yours? Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Hand over the 2 spirit beasts now, and we'll spare your life. If you don't know what's good for you, we'll kill you. The spirit beasts are also our young masters. That divine fire realm cultivator said with a high and mighty expression. Lin Feng's chest was burning with rage. He had basically guessed what was going on. These people must have seen BB and Dragon Rabbit by chance. Then, he began to harbor evil intentions. They might not know BB, but they definitely knew Dragon Rabbit. Dragon Rabbits were rare, and their ability to find natural treasures made countless people go crazy. When capturing BB and Dragon Rabbit was injured. BB fled back with Dragon Rabbit. Clearly, in the process of chasing BB and Dragon Rabbit, these people discovered that BB was even more extraordinary than Dragon Rabbit. Now, these people were determined to get BB and Dragon Rabbit. In this vast ocean, there were too many cases of people killing others to steal their treasures. And Lin Feng was alone. He was alone and weak. This group of people thought that Lin Feng was easy to bully, so they bullied him like this. Ha 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 ha. Lin Feng suddenly burst into laughter. The group of people looked at each other. What's wrong with this kid? Did he lose his mind? The divine fire realm expert's eyes immediately revealed a cold expression. He looked at Lin Feng coldly and said, "Brat, what are you laughing at?" Lin Feng said coldly, "I'm laughing at you people. You're already at death's door, and you still dare to boast shamelessly in front of this young master. You hurt my companions, so I'll take your dog lives. Brat, I gave you face, but you don't want it, do you? Since you want to die, then don't blame us for being ruthless. Tear this brat into 1,000 pieces for me." The divine fire realm expert shouted coldly, "Yes, my lord." Immediately, more than 20 Nihility God Realm cultivators all rushed towards Lin Feng. This was definitely someone from an extremely terrifying force. Or else, it was impossible for there to be so many Divine Realm experts. Die. The eyes of more than 20 Nihility God Realm cultivators flashed with dense killing intent. These people attacked together, using all kinds of powerful abilities, attacking towards Lin Feng. Among these 20 Nihility God Realm cultivators, the strongest one was at the 10th firmament of the Nihility God Realm. At this level, he could naturally be considered an expert of a region. The weakest one was at the 3rd firmament of the Nihility God Realm. With so many Nihility God Realm cultivators together, it was extremely terrifying. Who dared to underestimate them? However, they had offended the wrong person today. In Lin Feng's eyes, this group of people was nothing at all. You don't know death. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. His large hand shook the sky, pressing down across the void. Wong. An intense energy wave swept through the heavens and earth. A huge energy palm was formed and charged towards the 20 over empty God Realm cultivators. One palm enveloped more than 20 people. In an instant, it broke the attacks of these 20 Nihility God Realm cultivators. No. Feeling the terror of Lin Feng's palm, the 20 Nihility God Realm cultivators all cried out in fear. Bang! No one could save them. This palm struck down. More than 20 Nihility God Realm cultivators were directly killed. You actually pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. The eyes of the cultivator called Young Master Chong instantly shot out endless killing intent. More than 20 Nihility God Realm cultivators were killed, and he returned to the clan. He would also be heavily punished for this. Now, this young Master Chong wanted nothing more than to cut Lin Feng into pieces. Just a bunch of trash. Kill them all. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent, pressing towards the 4 divine fire realm cultivators step by step. Kill him together. Young Master Chong shouted. Yes. The other 3 divine fire realm cultivators responded. Immediately after, the 4 cultivators of the godly fire layer all attacked Lin Feng at the same time. Heaven's Thunder Palm, 10,000 Beast Fist, Great Desolate Buddha Art, Demon Emperor God Destroying Finger. The 4 great divine fire realm powerhouses, each one of them executed an extremely formidable divine ability. The 4 of them cultivated their abilities to an extremely high level. When they unleashed their divine abilities, each of their divine abilities evolved into a phantom of a deity. This was the result of cultivating their abilities to the great perfection realm. Lin Feng fought 1 against 3, but he didn't show any fear. He used Hell's Gate. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The Hell's Gate opened. A terrifying devouring power instantly swallowed the 4 divine fire realm cultivators, Then, Lin Feng used ruler of the world's destruction. The 5 devouring martial spirits revolved. Then, the 5 devouring martial spirits merged into one, turning into a devouring black hole. Standing in the black hole, he looked at his ancestor. With Lin Feng as the center, the surrounding space was sealed. The 4 divine fire realm cultivators were shocked to discover that their bodies couldn't move at all. Only now did they realize how terrifying Lin Feng was. "Brother, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding," young Master Chong shouted. Right now, he wanted to stabilize Lin Feng. As long as he could escape, Lin Feng would definitely die. Lin Feng remained unmoved. He raised his right hand. A beam of sword chi shot out. Pooh! The first divine fire realm cultivator was cut in half. He died on the spot. Poof! Then, the second divine fire realm cultivator was cut in half. "Spare me! Spare me! I'm willing to be your master. Please spare my life." The third divine fire realm cultivator begged. Lin Feng remained unmoved. He directly sent out a beam of sword chi, cutting the person in half as well. "Do you know who I am? If you kill me, you won't die either." "You'll die too," shouted young Master Chong, his face pale. He wanted to threaten Lin Feng. "Even if you're the son of the Celestial Emperor, I'll still kill you today." Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He raised his right hand and slashed at young Master Chong. "Let's see if you dare." Right at this moment, a furious roar rang out as a void gate appeared above the 9 heavens. An old man stepped out of the void gate. The old man's body exuded a destructive aura, a true god realm cultivator. "Ancestor, save me," young Master Chong shouted as if he saw hope. "I'll kill him. What can you do to me?" Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He directly ignored the true god realm cultivator. He waved his hand and sent out a beam of sword chi. Pooh! The head of this young Master Chong was chopped off, and blood immediately gushed out from his neck. Chapter 1647. Little bastard, you're courting death. I'm going to tear you to pieces. The old man's furious roar shook the heavens, his eyes filled with boundless killing intent. He raised his right hand and sent a palm strike at Lin Feng. This was a true god expert. Lin Feng was naturally no match for him. He had no intention of fighting the old man to the death. Facing the old man's attack, Lin Feng took out the spatial transference talisman that he had prepared beforehand. He crushed the talisman. His body instantly vanished. The old man's attack landed in midair. "Where do you think you're going?" The old man roared and chased after him. "Old bastard, you're still far from being able to catch up to me," said Lin Feng while smiling coldly when he saw the old man chasing after him. He might not be a match for this old tortoise, but if it was a competition of speed, Lin Feng was full of confidence. "Little bastard, don't be so smug. When I catch you later, I'll tear you to pieces, extract your soul, and throw it into the boundless purgatory. I'll make you suffer endless pain and make you wish you were dead." The old man cursed loudly, said Lin Feng mockingly. "Everybody knows how to brag. You're as slow as a turtle, and you think you can catch up with me? You're dreaming." Hearing Lin Feng's mockery, the old man's face turned ashen. He wanted nothing more than to capture Lin Feng right now and tear Lin Feng to pieces. Otherwise, it would be hard to vent his anger. However, the old man soon realized that the distance between him and Lin Feng was gradually increasing. Lin Feng used the octagonal world, then used the octagonal world and the empty space teleportation skill. One moment, he was in a parallel world. The next moment, he was back in the real world. The old man was confused. 3 days later, Lin Feng shook off this true god realm old fellow. He descended on an island, and his divine perception entered the mountain river ring. He found that the dragon rabbit had almost recovered, and he was relieved. Then, he took out the storage ring of young Master Chong. After scanning the storage ring with his spiritual force, Lin Feng realized that there were quite a lot of treasures in the storage ring. There were even 4 divine artifacts. However, the highest grade divine artifact was only a divine fire weapon. To Lin Feng, it wasn't very useful, but it could be sold for a good price. Or it could be used to recruit elite troops in the future. Hey, this is a nautical chart. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. He found a nautical chart in the storage ring. After studying it carefully, he realized that this nautical chart was the nautical chart of the Netherworld Sea Realm. The nautical chart was very detailed. It was very clear which places they couldn't go and which forces were located in which places. Even the sea regions where the Hell's emissary led the souls of the dead to the underworld were marked. Those seas were not to be casually set foot in. The Nine States Alliance's fleet had originally passed through one of these seas. In addition to the various topography and terrain, some of the forces in the Netherworld Sea were also marked. There were 4 great forces in the Netherworld Sea. They were called the One Nation and 3 Islands. The One Nation referred to the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom. The 3 islands were Bloodcloud Island, Scarlet Flame Island, and Devil Prison Island. When Lin Feng had asked Angel about the division of forces in the Netherworld Sea, she only knew of the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom. She didn't know about the other 3 islands. It seemed that she didn't understand the structure of the Netherworld Sea Realm at all. Of the 4 great forces, the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom was the strongest. The other 3 islands combined might not be as strong as the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom. Therefore, the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom was the undisputed hegemon of the Netherworld Sea Realm. It was also the center of the Netherworld Sea Realm. The nautical chart mainly marked the Netherworld Sea Realm. There was no indication of what lay beyond the Netherworld Sea. Lin Feng was a little disappointed. Maybe I can go to the Eternal Divine Kingdom first. Let's see if I can buy a nautical chart to the 9 provinces continent. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. He confirmed the route to the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom. Then, he flew towards the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom. Along the way, Lin Feng saw many wonders on the sea. For example, he saw a very strange island. At first, it was snowing heavily, but it didn't take long for spring to arrive. Then, it was hot summer, and soon, it was autumn. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter were changing rapidly. It was very strange. However, Lin Feng didn't explore the island. It was better to stay away from such a strange island. On the way to the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom, Lin Feng was attacked by some powerful beasts in the sea. However, most of them were no match for Lin Feng. That was until Lin Feng encountered a vicious flood dragon. The flood dragon was nearly 10,000 meters long. Its cultivation was very profound, and its magic power was overwhelming. Lin Feng was no match for it and fled. He was chased for 10 days and 10 nights before he shook off the flood dragon. Such a vast sea. Naturally, some extremely terrifying creatures would be born. Some of them could even destroy a huge fleet. A month later, Lin Feng finally saw the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom. It was a continent on the sea. It was incomparably huge, and one couldn't see the end of it. The terrain of the continent was very complicated. There were basins, valleys, mountains, and all kinds of complicated terrain. In the center of the continent, there was an ancient city. This ancient city stretched for 300,000 kilometers. It was very huge. In the ancient city, people came and went. That was the main city of the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom. Netherworld Sea Ancient Capital. Lin Feng entered the Netherworld Sea Ancient Capital. There were all kinds of races in the Netherworld Sea Ancient Capital. Of course, humans were the main race. Other than humans, there were many sea races, such as the Heavenly Star Race, Clam Race, Crab Race, Sharkman Race, and so on. These were all sea races. There were also some demons. There were earth demons, sky demons, and sea demons. Other than that, there were also demons. Of course, there were also some other races, such as the white-haired race, the skeleton race, and so on. However, there were very few of them. Lin Feng even saw a few mermaids. These mermaids were very bold. They swaggered into the Netherworld Sea Divine Kingdom. Lin Feng noticed that many people seemed to hate them. He wondered if the mermaids had robbed them before. These mermaids were now the biggest robbers in the sea. Moreover, they were so strong that no one dared to provoke them. If the mermaids dared to destroy the fleet of the Nine States Alliance, what more other powers? Have you heard? Fairy Clear Snow is going to embark on the immortal platform's ancient path to the Undying Realm. Is that true? Is Fairy Clear Snow really going to the Undying Realm? It's absolutely true. Countless people are heading to the immortal platform to watch. Lin Feng walked on the street and heard many people talking about Fairy Clear Snow's journey to the Undying Realm. This shocked him greatly. Chapter 1648. The Undying World was the #1 world in the 3,000 major worlds. It was filled with mysterious experts. It was said that only the Undying World could allow cultivators to break through to the Emperor Realm. Many experts would choose to head to the Undying World. Only in the Undying World could one pursue the pinnacle of cultivation. Of course, how could the Undying World be so easy to find? Since ancient times, countless experts had gone to the starry sky world in search of the Undying World, but they had found nothing. Many people had been trapped and died in the starry sky world. This Fairy Clear Snow, could she really find the Undying World? Or would she turn into a pink skeleton in the dark and cold starry sky world? Lin Feng found a high-end inn and rented a courtyard. The environment here was very elegant. There were small bridges, flowing water, fake mountains, and strange rocks. There were around 30 courtyards in the surroundings. Of course, such a courtyard was expensive, but for Lin Feng, it wasn't a big deal. As he strolled through the courtyard, a beautiful woman walked toward Lin Feng. Her name was Tang Miao, and she had a voluptuous figure. She was the attendant in charge of the courtyard. Lin Gongzi, are you out for a stroll? She asked with a smile. Lin Feng nodded. Is attendant Tang taking a stroll as well? The beautiful woman immediately smiled and said, how could I have such a good life? I'm so busy every day that I can't breathe. As the beautiful woman spoke, she patted her plump chest with her hand. Lin Feng smiled but didn't say anything. The woman said, young master, are you interested in attending an auction? Auction? What auction? Lin Feng asked. That place specializes in auctioning top-tier women, such as flirtatious vixens, charming clam girls, and so on. Furthermore, they're all virgins and absolutely clean. You can buy them and train them yourself. The woman smiled. Lin Feng raised his brows slightly. He had heard of such auctions before. The Tianwu continent also had such auctions. However, Lin Feng had never attended one before. He wasn't very interested in it. The beautiful woman continued to persuade Zhao Fu, saying, sometimes, the auction will sell extremely rare mermaids. Sir, you can try your luck there. This beautiful woman spared no effort in persuading Lin Feng to go to the auction. Naturally, it wasn't without reason. Every time a client was introduced, they would be able to gain a lot of benefits from the auction. Lin Feng replied, I have important matters to attend to these few days, so I'm afraid I won't have time to attend the auction. I'm truly sorry for letting down Deacon Tang's good intentions. Although the beautiful woman was a little disappointed, she didn't show it on her face. She coquettishly smiled as she replied, Sir, of course you have important matters to attend to. As for the auction, you can go whenever you want. The two of them chatted for a while before the beautiful woman left. At night, Lin Feng went out to the trading company to see if he could buy a nautical chart to the 9 continents. But the result disappointed Lin Feng. The trading company didn't have a nautical chart to the 9 continents. Moreover, the elder of the trading company told Lin Feng that it was almost impossible to buy a nautical chart to the 9 continents. This kind of nautical chart couldn't be circulated at all. Perhaps some of the top forces had it, but how difficult was it to obtain a nautical chart from them? After Lin Feng left the trading company, he pondered for a moment. He planned to wait for the 9 Continents Alliance's battleships to arrive. The 9 Continents Alliance would definitely wage war against the merfolk race. When the 9 Continents Alliance's fleet returned, he would see if he could ride their fleet to the 9 continents. If they didn't let him ride, then he would stay far behind the fleet. Although this method was a little stupid, he would still be able to reach the 9 continents. Now, Lin Feng couldn't wait to go to the 9 continents continent to find his father's old friend. He wanted to ask his father about what happened back then. He wanted to ask him if he knew where his mother was suppressed in the starry sky world. While eating in a restaurant, Lin Feng heard the people around him talking about Fairy Qingshui. From these people's discussion, Lin Feng learned a lot of shocking news. Fairy Qing Shui was an immortal infant born from an immortal lotus. Later, she was adopted by a granny India who lived in seclusion overseas. Fairy Qing Shui had shown amazing talent since she was young. When she was 18 years old, she became a void god realm expert. After cultivating for 500 years, she became a female giant. She began to travel the heavens. Now, she had cultivated for 1,325 years. She wanted to go further. Fairy Qing Shui wanted to go to the legendary Undying Realm. Even Lin Feng couldn't help but be amazed when he heard about Fairy Qing Shui's legendary life. Wasn't this woman too monstrous? She actually became a female giant after cultivating for 500 years. This was the late ancient era. Some cultivators also called it the Age of Doom. The spirit qi and resources between heaven and earth were far from what they used to be. Therefore, it was very difficult for top experts to appear in this era. However, Fairy Qing Shui had broken through to the realm of a female giant at such a young age. It was really unbelievable. Immortal infant? Was it really born from an immortal lotus? Lin Feng muttered to himself. It sounded too incredible. He found it hard to believe. No matter how miraculous an immortal lotus was, it couldn't give birth to living beings, right? However, Lin Feng thought that since the heavenly fiend clan's the magic lotus could also give birth to demon fetuses, he was relieved. Even stones could give birth to living beings. An immortal lotus. What was so incredible about giving birth to living beings? Lin Feng planned to take a look at Fairy Qing Shui. He had never seen such a monstrous figure. Moreover, Lin Feng obtained an important clue from listening to these people's discussions. Fairy Qing Shui was not only talented, but also powerful. She was also a peerless beauty. Some people had seen her face and were stunned. They couldn't believe that there was someone in this world who could be so beautiful. Lin Feng was naturally very interested in this woman, who could be called perfect. The Immortal Platform was located in the northwest of the oceanic continent. When Lin Feng headed to the Immortal Platform, he found that many people were also heading there. There were even cultivators from Blood Cloud Island, Scarlet Flame Island, and Devil Prison Island. Many cultivators were sighing. Some of them were from the same generation as Fairy Qing Shui, and were about the same age. They had once pursued Fairy Qing Shui. However, none of them had succeeded in pursuing Fairy Qing Shui. Now, they could only look up to Fairy Qing Shui. Most of these people were young masters from large factions. Now, Fairy Qing Shui was heading to the Undying Realm. These pursuers from the past came one after another. They might not be able to see the goddess in their hearts again in the future. They wanted to see Fairy Qing Shui one last time before she left. If a woman is too powerful, the man who pursues her will definitely end up in tragedy. Lin Feng muttered. "Get out of my way! Get out of my way!" A coquettish voice rang out from behind. A woman was riding a 9-headed demon lion as she charged over from afar. She rampaged about, and a good number of cultivators were sent flying. "Get out of the way! The little witch is here." Many people turned pale when they saw the woman. They hurriedly dodged. Chapter 1649. The 9-headed demonic lion bared its fangs and brandished its claws, looking ferocious. Meanwhile, the female cultivator called the Little Demoness looked very excited. She rode her demonic lion as if there was no one around. There was a reason for her to be so domineering. She had a great background. Her father was the island lord of Devil Prison Island, Nangong Qing. Her name was Nangong Miaoka. Her talent was shocking, and she was a peerless genius. It was said that her demonic lion was tamed by her own efforts. The demonic lion was rumored to be an evil beast from hell. To be able to tame such a powerful creature, one could see how powerful Nangong Miaoka was. She was powerful and had a background that others envied. Lin Miaoka was also a winner in life. It was inevitable for her to be so domineering. Nangong Miaoka rushed over, and the cultivators who were slow to dodge suffered. However, no one dared to say anything. Who would dare to offend the famous Little Demoness? Wouldn't that be courting death? Behind her was a group of disciples from influential clans. Most of them were chasing after her. Nangong Miaoka might be called the Little Demoness, but that was because of her personality. In truth, she was very beautiful. However, The arrogant expression on her face made people feel that she was not easy to approach. Lin Feng, like many others, was also dodging Nangong Miaoka's nine-headed demonic lion. There was a scholarly-looking cultivator beside him. He was at the second heavenly layer of Nihility God realm. He was not very powerful, but he was not weak either. He was a bit slow in dodging, and his face became very pale. Lin Feng saw this and grabbed his collar and pulled him to the side. Meddlesome. Nangong Miaoka's expression turned cold. She raised her whip and lashed at Lin Feng and the scholarly-looking cultivator. Lin Feng didn't feel like arguing with this woman. He grabbed the scholarly-looking cultivator and quickly retreated 20 meters away, dodging Nangong Miaoka's whip. Nangong Miaoka was startled. She didn't expect Lin Feng to dodge her whip so easily. She narrowed her eyes. A group of disciples from influential clans rushed over. A purple-robed cultivator said, "Miaoka, do you want us to help you teach this brat a lesson?" The purple-robed cultivator was called Mu Luqing. He was a disciple of the Mu clan, one of the 5 great clans of Devil Prison Island. He's just an independent cultivator, and he's only at the Nihility God realm. He's like an ant. As long as you say the word, I can capture him and make him kneel in front of you and beg for mercy. A young master in blue flicked his sleeves and said with an arrogant expression. The young master in blue was called Lan Jieyu. He was a lineal descendant of the Lan family, one of the 3 major families on the Red Flame Island. Miaoka Miaoka. Nangong Miaoka said indifferently, "Forget it. There's no need to lower ourselves to the same level as a rogue cultivator." Then, the group of people rode their ferocious beasts and rushed into the distance. In the blink of an eye, they had disappeared without a trace. "Brother, thank you for saving me. I'm Meng Zishu. How should I address you?" "Thank you so much," said the scholarly cultivator, bowing before Lin Feng gratefully. Bowing was the Confucian way of greeting. It was just like how ordinary cultivators would greet each other with cupped fists. Monks, on the other hand, would put their palms together and chant Amit Ba. The Confucian way of greeting would place his left palm on his face and his right hand on the back of his left hand. He would then bend his body at a 45-degree angle. This was bowing. It was obvious that the cultivator called Meng Zishu was a Confucian cultivator. The Confucian way of the Tianwu continent had declined, and there were almost no Confucian cultivators left. The only Confucian cultivator left was Ning Xiaocai. However, when Lin Feng returned to the Tianwu continent, Ning Xiaocai had already left. At that time, many experts had left the Tianwu continent for the 9 provinces. That was why Lin Feng didn't see Ning Xiaocai. Lin Feng had a good impression of Confucian cultivators. He had helped Meng Zishu earlier because Lin Feng felt that Meng Zishu had an overwhelming righteous aura. At that time, Lin Feng had thought that Meng Zishu was a Confucian cultivator. Now, it seemed that he was indeed a Confucian cultivator. Lin Feng also cupped his fists and said, "I'm Lin Feng. I should help out more when I'm outside, so Brother Meng, please don't mind me." Meng Zishu said, "I admire Brother Lin's magnanimity. From your accent, you seem to be a cultivator from the Tianwu continent." Lin Feng said in surprise, "Have you been to the Tianwu continent?" Meng Zishu said, "No, I haven't. Some time ago, the merfolk attacked the 9 States Alliance's fleet. Many cultivators fled to the Nethersea Divine Kingdom, and many of them were from the Tianwu continent. My master is an old friend of a cultivator from the Tianwu continent. That senior is still in the academy, so I've had some contact with him. That's why I can recognize Brother Lin's accent." "I see." Lin Feng nodded. Every place had its own accent. For example, people from Cantonese spoke differently from people from the Northeast. When a Northeasterner spoke, Lin Feng knew that he was from the Northeast. Some people were very sensitive to sounds and could easily tell where someone was from just from their accent. Lin Feng thought to himself that when he reached the 9 States continent, he should change his accent and try his best to adapt to the 9 States continent's accent. That way, no one would be able to tell where he was from just from his accent. Even if he caused a huge disaster in the 9 States continent, people who wanted to take revenge on him would not be able to threaten Shangguan Feier and the others. Lin Feng and Meng Zishu got along quite well, so he went with Meng Zishu to the Heaven Ascension platform. On the way, Lin Feng gained a certain understanding of Meng Zishu. Meng Zishu was a student from Yuelu Academy, one of the 4 great academies in the 9 states continent. Of course, Meng Zishu's Yuelu Academy was not the main academy in the 9 states continent. It was a branch academy in the Nethersea world, located in the Nethersea Divine Kingdom. Meng Zishu's master was the dean of Yuelu Academy in the Nethersea world. Speaking of which, Fairy Qing Shui and I were childhood playmates. Her master and my master were old friends, so we often went to the academy to exchange Dao techniques. Every time, Fairy Qing Shui would be brought along. So many years have passed, and Fairy Qing Shui has become an existence that I have to look up to. Meng Zishu smiled bitterly. Lin Feng said, a person like Fairy Qing Shui probably only appears once every 5 to 600,000 years, or even a million years. Her talent is too heaven-defying, so there's no need to compare herself to such a heaven-defying person. That's right. A person like Fairy Qing Shui will definitely become an earth-shattering figure. She might even become an empress in the future. Meng Zishu sighed. Lin Feng and Meng Zishu arrived at the immortal platform. There was already a sea of people around the immortal platform, and it was very lively. A woman in a snow-white robe stood on top of the platform. She looked like a fairy who had fallen from the 9 heavens to the mortal world. Anyone who stood in front of her would feel ashamed of their inferiority. Chapter 1650. Lin Feng stood in the distance and looked at Fairy Clear Snow. He could also feel how breathtaking she was. Lin Feng had never seen such an otherworldly aura before. She really didn't seem like a woman from the mortal world. She was born from an immortal lotus and was as peerless as an immortal. Such a woman was indeed not someone a man from the mortal world could match. Many young men in the surroundings looked at Fairy Clear Snow with infatuation. Fairy Clear Snow had rejected many people in the past, but even after so many years, those who had been rejected by Fairy Clear Snow still couldn't forget about her. After Fairy Clear Snow left, my life seemed to have lost its splendor. Even if I can only look at her from afar, I'm already satisfied. Some of the young men in the surroundings were talking to themselves. Lin Feng looked at Meng Zishu and couldn't help but mutter to himself, I wonder if Brother Meng has ever pursued Fairy Clear Snow? Meng Zishu seemed to know what Lin Feng was thinking. He smiled bitterly and said, I know the difference between me and Fairy Clear Snow, so I've never had such thoughts. Lin Feng said, Brother Meng, you're also a man of striking appearance. There's no need to be so humble. Meng Zishu said, this is called knowing one's own limits. Haha, he laughed. Judging from Meng Zishu's expression, he really hadn't had any thoughts about Fairy Clear Snow. Perhaps it was just as Meng Zishu had said. He knew his own limits. Of course, it was also possible that Meng Zishu didn't have any special feelings for Fairy Clear Snow. Everyone had their own preferences. Everyone had different thoughts. Some liked Fairy Clear Snow, and some hated her. Of course, there were also many who didn't have any feelings for her. The people around them were also discussing Fairy Clear Snow. Someone said, Fairy Clear Snow is leaving the ancient path of stars. Why didn't her master come to see her off? Another cultivator said, according to rumors, he died more than 700 years ago. I heard that he was killed by someone, but no one knows who killed him or why. Another cultivator said, I heard that it was because of a supreme treasure, but there were also rumors that it was because of a secret treasure. Later on, there were also rumors that Fairy Qing Shui took revenge for her master and razed that organization to the ground. It was said that there were hundreds of thousands of people, but not a single one came out alive. Lin Feng also heard the discussions of those people and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Fairy Qing Shui looked so otherworldly, but her means were also quite ruthless. However, after thinking about it, he could understand the hatred in Fairy Clear Snow's heart. She was born from an immortal lotus and had no parents or relatives. She only had a master, and his master had died a tragic death. Her heart must be filled with hatred. It would not be strange for her to slaughter an entire family. A powerful figure like Fairy Clear Snow naturally wouldn't have an indecisive character. She looked like an otherworldly immortal, and even a little weak, but she was actually very decisive. As long as they didn't provoke her, they would be fine. He was simply digging his own grave. Many experts had arrived, including the king of the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom. The king of the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom had lived for more than 50 million years and was very old. Now, he was about to reach the end of his life. The old king was tall and burly with a head full of white hair. He gave off the feeling of a hero past his prime. There were more than a dozen experts beside the old king. Some were old, some were middle-aged, and all of them were the upper echelons of the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom's royal family. A few of them were the old king's grandsons. The old king's lifespan was too long, and his son had died because of him. He had died before he could inherit the throne. The Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom is not peaceful now. The old king probably still has tens of thousands of years left to live. For cultivators like us, tens of thousands of years pass in the blink of an eye. Therefore, the old king's grandsons and great-grandsons are fighting openly and secretly to become his successor. Meng Zishu whispered. Lin Feng nodded. There were too many such things. Whether it was in the cultivation world or the secular world, the struggle for imperial power was extremely cruel. This was because it was a life-and-death struggle between blood relatives. A new king ascended the throne. He might be stepping on the bones of his own brother. Back then, this little girl was only this tall. Now, she has already reached this height. I have lived for more than 50 million years, but I have not reached her height. The old king gestured with his right hand. She was only about half a meter tall. Obviously, he had seen Fairy Qing Shui in the past when she was only a few years old. Now that Fairy Qing Shui was going to the Undying Realm, the old king's heart was filled with emotions, envy, and even jealousy. Your Majesty will definitely reach this height soon, the cultivators beside the old king hurriedly said. The old king sighed and said, My bloodline has already declined. I have already foreseen the future and have already accepted it. You don't have to say nice things to me. This subject is terrified. The group of people hurriedly knelt before the old king. Rise. I have no intention of blaming you. Birth, old age, sickness, and death are part of the cycle of the heavenly Tao. Even the great emperor cannot live forever, let alone us gods. The old king waved his hand. Apart from the old king of the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom, the lords of the other three islands also came. They stood in the distance and looked at Fairy Qing Shui. Fairy Qing Shui is considered a top expert in the 9 continents, right? Lin Feng asked. She is at least one of the top 10 experts in the 9 continents, Meng Zishu said. After a short pause, he continued, moreover, she is too young. Apart from the number 1 expert in the 9 continents, the Red World Fairy, the top 10 experts in the 9 continents have cultivated for at least 1,000,000 years. The Red World Fairy? Who is that? Lin Feng asked curiously. The Red World Fairy has only cultivated for a little over 2,000 years. She is the founder of the Red Dust Immortal Pavilion and the number 1 beauty in the 9 continents. After the ancient era, she was the most heaven-defying existence in the 9 continents. Back then, she was a female disciple of the number 1 celestial sect in the 9 continents, the Taishang Immortal Sect. During a fortuitous encounter, she obtained a treasure. A supreme elder of the Taishang Immortal Sect found out, and he demanded that the Red World Fairy hand over the treasure. At that time, the Red World Fairy was only 18 years old, and she had only joined the sect for a few years. The Supreme Elder probably thought that the Red World Fairy was young and easy to bully, but the Red World Fairy did not hand over the treasure. This angered the Supreme Elder, and he summoned the Red World Fairy to his residence. He actually wanted to pluck the Red World Fairy. The Red World Fairy used the treasure to escape, and from then on, she cut off all ties with the Taishang Immortal Sect. However, this matter was a huge scandal, and the Taishang Immortal Sect sent people to kill the Red World Fairy. They wanted to silence her and cover up this matter, but the Red World Fairy was too strong. No matter how strong the Taishang Immortal Sect sent people, they were all killed. In the battle with the experts of the Taishang Immortal Sect, the Red World Fairy became more and more powerful. At this time, the Taishang Immortal Sect could no longer sit still. If they allowed the Red Dust Immortal Sect to grow, they would probably cause a huge disaster in the future. Therefore, the 3,000 Divine Realm experts of the Taishang Immortal Sect all set out and set up the Zhu Immortal Great Array to kill the Red World Fairy. However, no one expected that the 3,000 experts, who were at least true god and above, would activate the Zhu Immortal Great Array to deal with the Red World Fairy. They were actually killed by the Red World Fairy in one move. This battle shocked the 9 continents. In the year of the battle, the Red World Fairy was only 300 years old. After this battle, the Red World Fairy established her reputation as the #1 expert of the 9 continents. Chapter 1651. Lin Feng was dumbfounded. He had thought that Fairy Qing Shui was terrifying enough. Now that he heard of the Red World Fairy's deeds, he was even more shocked. This immortal Reverend Hong Chun was too terrifying. Meng Zishu gloated. The Taishang immortal sect used to be a superpower in the 9 provinces' great world. No one would dare to refute the Taishang immortal sect's accusations. No power could withstand a single blow from the Taishang immortal sect. However, after that battle, the Taishang immortal sect suffered a great loss, and they were no longer as strong as before. They started to weaken from their peak, but a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Now, the Taishang immortal sect is still the #1 power in the 9 provinces' great world. They're still the leader of the immortal Tao. Lin Feng asked, if the Red World Fairy is so powerful, why didn't she destroy the Taishang immortal sect? Meng Zishu shook his head. How could the Taishang immortal sect be destroyed so easily? That power has a legendary immortal artifact. After that battle, a few old fogies of the Taishang immortal sect used that immortal artifact to hunt down the Red World Fairy. However, the Red World Fairy left early and did not fight to the death with those old fogies. After that, the Red World Fairy founded the Red Dust Immortal Pavilion. Now, the Red Dust Immortal Pavilion is a famous immortal Tao sect that countless people yearn for. Lin Feng said, the Taishang immortal sect is trying to kill themselves. They actually forced their own disciples into such a state. It's no wonder that the Red World Fairy broke off relations with the Taishang immortal sect. Meng Zishu smiled. Isn't that so? Now that the Taishang immortal sect is restrained by the Red Dust Immortal Pavilion, they're not as arrogant as before. No matter how powerful a power is, there will be a day when it declines. Many times, a seemingly insignificant matter can cause a power at its peak to decline. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. Buzz. At that moment, a series of violent fluctuations came from the 9 heavens, startling everyone. Everyone looked over. The sky instantly darkened. In an instant, the sky turned from day to night. Above the 9 heavens, huge stars appeared one after another. The stars began to spin rapidly. Rays of dazzling starlight intertwined, and an ancient starry sky road appeared. However, the ancient path of the stars had been severed by the distorted divine runes in the 9 heavens. That's an emperor rune, sealing the 9 heaven world. Cultivators from outside the realm could not descend. However, the emperor runes won't stop the cultivators of the 9 continents world from leaving, Meng Zishu said. The 9 prefectures world included the 9 prefectures continent, the Boundless Sea region, and the Sky Martial continent. Therefore, the Netherworld Sea also belonged to the 9 states world. The only place that was not covered by the emperor runes was the Sky Martial continent. However, there was no need for the cultivators of the 9 continents' great world to head to the Tianwu continent. In any case, the emperor runes wouldn't attack cultivators who left. The ancient starry sky path has appeared. Fairy Qing Shui is leaving. Many people cried out in alarm. Fairy Clear Snow stepped towards the ancient path of the starry sky. Fairy Qing Shui, can you please stay? A cultivator pleaded. Lin Feng guessed that he had pursued Fairy Qing Shui in the past. When he saw that Fairy Qing Shui was leaving, he was heartbroken. Fairy Qing Shui, have a safe journey. I hope you can become the empress soon. Some people waved at Fairy Qing Shui. Fairy Qing Shui took one last look at the cultivators below, and then at the boundless netherworld sea. Finally, she retracted her gaze and resolutely walked towards the ancient path of the starry sky. As expected, the emperor runes didn't attack Fairy Qing Shui. She entered the ancient path of the starry sky. Then, the ancient path of the starry sky disappeared. Darkness turned into day. Fairy Qing Shui followed the ancient path of the starry sky to the undying realm. I hope Fairy Qing Shui can find the undying realm. Meng Zishu muttered to himself. Fairy Qing Shui is gone. What's the point of me living? A young master said sadly. Then, he walked to the edge of the cliff and jumped. Someone jumped off the cliff. Someone died for Fairy Qing Shui. Many people shouted and ran towards the edge of the cliff. Lin Feng and Meng Zishu also came to the edge of the cliff and looked down. The cultivator who jumped off the cliff was a divine realm cultivator. He fell to the bottom of the cliff, but he didn't die. He cursed and swore. Then, he got up. Little brat, do you have to jump off the cliff for a woman? I'll beat you to death. A middle-aged woman flew over from afar. Damn. Mother, leave me some face. The cultivator who jumped off the cliff wailed. The middle-aged woman was a shrew. She didn't leave him any face. Instead, she shouted angrily, you little brat, you can even jump off the cliff. You don't even care about your face anymore, and you still want me to leave you some face? Are you daydreaming? There was a flurry of punches and kicks. The cultivator was beaten half to death. Many people watched the commotion from the side. Lin Feng and Meng Zishu gloated at the cultivator's misfortune, along with many others. When the cultivator who jumped off the cliff was taken away by his mother like a chicken, Lin Feng and Meng Zishu saw that there was no more drama to watch, so they left together and returned to the ancient capital of the Netherworld Sea. Brother Lin, we hit it off at first sight. Today, I'd like to invite Brother Lin for a drink as a host. Brother Lin, will you do me the honor? Meng Zishu invited. Then I'll have to trouble Brother Meng. Lin Feng cupped his fists. The two of them arrived at a restaurant called Wangjun Restaurant. This restaurant had a long history. It was said that a peerlessly beautiful woman had built this ancient restaurant to wait for her husband, who had gone out to travel. The woman would often look into the distance from the restaurant, but in the end, what she waited for was grievous news. It was a sad story. Later, Wangjun Restaurant was built into a restaurant. Wangjun Restaurant was very lively. It was one of the most famous restaurants in the ancient capital of the Netherworld Sea. Lin Feng and Meng Zishu arrived at Wangjun Restaurant. Just as they were about to enter, a group of young masters came from afar. They surrounded Lin Feng and Meng Zishu. What's the meaning of this? Lin Feng asked indifferently. Bastard, can't you recognize us? Lan Jieyu looked at Lin Feng condescendingly. Lin Feng frowned. He naturally recognized these people. They were the group of young masters who had followed Nangong Miaoka back then. Everyone, this is the ancient capital of the Netherworld Sea. What are you trying to do by surrounding us? If you dare cause trouble in the ancient capital of the Netherworld Sea, no matter how strong your background is, you'll be thrown into prison, said Meng Zishu coldly. Ha 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 ha. Who said we were causing trouble? It's clearly you two pieces of trash who offended us. Not only did you not apologize, but you're also being rude and unreasonable. Do you think the Imperial Guards of the ancient capital of the Netherworld Sea will believe you two independent cultivators? Or will they believe us, the disciples of big clans? Said Mu Luqing. Meng Zishu's expression kept changing. Lan Jieyu and Meng Zishu couldn't help but smile mockingly. He said indifferently, kneel down and kowtow to us. Then, lick our shoes clean. Then, we'll let you two go. Chapter 1652. These disciples were all arrogant and domineering. There was no one in the Nether Sea world that they did not dare to provoke. After all, the forces behind them were the top forces in the Nether Sea world. However, it was obvious that these people had provoked the wrong person today. Lin Feng did not fall for their tricks. A bunch of trash. How dare you shout in front of me? You are simply courting death. Now, I'll give you a chance. Kneel on the ground and lick my shoes clean. Then, I'll spare you. Lin Feng said indifferently. After hearing Lin Feng's arrogant words, everyone was stunned. Meng Zishu smiled bitterly. He did not expect Lin Feng to be more arrogant than Lan Jieyu and the others. Many of the surrounding cultivators were also very surprised. Many of them muttered in their hearts. That kid actually dared to ask Lan Jieyu and the other young masters to kneel on the ground and lick his shoes clean. Wasn't he courting death? With Lan Jieyu and the others' personalities, how could they let him go so easily? Thinking of this, many people looked at Lin Feng with pity. In the eyes of the surrounding cultivators, Lin Feng would definitely not have a good ending. Killing was prohibited in the Nether Sea ancient capital. These young masters might restrain themselves. However, with their temperament, they would inevitably humiliate Lin Feng ruthlessly. Their limbs might even be broken. Kid, you're courting death. After the group of young masters reacted, they looked at Lin Feng angrily with cold eyes. Someone actually dared to ask them to kneel down and lick his shoes clean. This kind of thing. Usually, these young masters humiliated others and asked others to do such things. Now, someone actually dared to ask them to do such a thing. Was he looking down on them? These young masters all gnashed their teeth in hatred of Lin Feng. Just cripple this kid. Lan Jieyu and Mu Luqing waved their hands and ordered at the same time. These two people's identities were obviously different. The rest of the young masters also looked up to the two of them as their leaders. Leave it to us. Watch how we deal with this kid. The group of young masters laughed sinisterly as they pounced towards Lin Feng. They're attacking. That brat is doomed. Many of the surrounding cultivators exclaimed in shock. These young masters were not some rich second generations, although they were arrogant and despotic. However, each of them possessed extraordinary strength. After all, he was from a top force and had been able to obtain an endless amount of precious resources to cultivate since he was young. Moreover, the talents of this group of young masters were also quite astonishing. Therefore, their cultivations rose very quickly, and now they had all reached the deity realm. Brother Lin, let me help you. Meng Zishu stepped forward and said aloud. Lin Feng chuckled and said, dealing with a bunch of trash. There is no need for Brother Meng to do anything. I alone am enough. Brat, you're asking for a beating. When the group of young masters heard Lin Feng calling them trash, they were all furious and couldn't wait to torture and humiliate Lin Feng. Only in this way could they vent their anger. This group of more than a dozen people rushed over quickly, each with a fierce look in their eyes. They waved their right fists and blasted towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng sneered and said, a bunch of trash. Originally, slapping you guys would dirty my hands. But since you're asking for a beating, I don't mind fulfilling your wishes. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng leaped out and rushed into the crowd. Slap, slap, slap. Everyone heard the resounding slap. Soon after, shrill screams could be heard. One by one, the young masters were directly sent flying. Plop, plop. Then, they fell to the ground. These young masters' faces were directly slapped by Lin Feng. Even their bones were exposed. How miserable! How miserable! Now, more than a dozen young masters were all screaming miserably. They looked at Lin Feng with resentment and fear in their eyes. Everyone was dumbfounded. No one expected Lin Feng to be so powerful. He sent one person flying with a slap. These young masters were all direct descendants of the various large families in the Dark Ocean world. They were the top young masters. They were all deities. They didn't even have the strength to resist. Too powerful. No wonder that Brad is so arrogant. He has the right to be arrogant. This is going to be a good show. I wonder how this will end. Lan Jieyu and Mu Luqing are both in the Divine Flame realm. If they attack, that brat might not be able to resist. I don't think that's the case. There's a 70 to 80% chance that the little brother is hiding his cultivation level. Judging from how he beat a group of young masters half to death, that little brother should also be in the Divine Flame realm. That's why it's still not certain who will win. Many people were discussing this excitedly. They were just here to watch a good show, so they weren't afraid of making a big deal out of it. The bigger the commotion, the more intense the fight, the more exciting it would be for them. Brother Lin is actually so powerful. Meng Zishu was extremely shocked to see Lin Feng's strength. He couldn't help but think to himself, everyone says that the Tianwu continent doesn't have any strong experts. It seems that the rumors aren't true. What Meng Zishu didn't know was that in the Tianwu continent, Lin Feng was already one of the strongest experts. Furthermore, there were only a handful of experts like him. There really weren't that many experts in the Tianwu continent. Let's join hands and deal with this brat, said Mu Luqing. Since things had developed to this point, they naturally wouldn't back down. If they did, they would lose all their face. These young masters cared about their face a lot. Furthermore, in Mu Liuqing's opinion, joining hands with Lan Jieyu to deal with Lin Feng shouldn't be too difficult. All right. Lan Jieyu nodded. Swoosh. Swoosh. The two of them attacked at the same time, quickly rushing towards Lin Feng. Their bodies emitted powerful magic energy fluctuations as they started condensing powerful divine abilities. Kneel down, shouted Lin Feng coldly. He took a step forward, releasing a soul-stirring aura. Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu, who were condensing their divine abilities, were enveloped by Lin Feng's aura. The divine ability they condensed was instantly interrupted. Wah! The two of them coughed up a mouthful of blood, and their legs went soft. Thump! Thump! The two of them immediately knelt down in front of Lin Feng. Heavens! Isn't this too terrifying? Many people gasped and looked at Lin Feng in astonishment. Many people had thought that Lin Feng would be able to fight against Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu. But nobody would have thought that Lin Feng would be able to oppress Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu, two young cultivators who were at the top of their generation, without even attacking. What kind of cultivation base did he have to be able to do that? Lick my shoe clean? Then I'll let you two go. Lin Feng looked at Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu indifferently, then raised his right foot and extended his shoe in front of them. Chapter 1653. Brat, do you know what you're doing? How dare you ask us to lick your shoes clean? Do you want to become our family's enemy? Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu's faces twisted in anger. They had never felt so humiliated before. It was impossible for them to lick Lin Feng's shoes clean. If they really did that, they would lose all their dignity. It might even form a lingering heart demon. From then on, it would be difficult for them to improve their cultivation. Therefore, the two of them brought up their families to threaten Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng did not fall for it. He sneered and said, I gave you two a chance, but you two don't know how to cherish it. Since that's the case, I don't mind letting you taste the feeling of being cut into pieces. I'll teach you that there are many people in this world that you can't afford to offend. Whoosh, whoosh. Lin Feng raised his right hand and gently waved it. Blade lights flew out and circled in front of the two cultivators, moving towards them with the intention of killing them. Pooh, pooh. Tearing sounds could be heard one after another. Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu's bodies were cut by the saber light. The two of them screamed in pain. After a short while, their bodies were drenched in blood. Spare us. Spare us. We're willing to lick your shoes clean. Please spare us. Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu begged in fear. They had never thought that Lin Feng would dare to torture them like this. The two of them were really scared now. In their eyes, Lin Feng was like a demon. The surrounding people were also stunned. Many of them were guessing Lin Feng's identity. Who would dare to torture Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu in such a cruel way? However, Lin Feng dared to do so. Many people were very curious about Lin Feng's identity. Could it be that this young man was also from a top force? Was he from the Jiuzhou continent? However, a strong dragon could not suppress a snake in its old haunts. He was too bold to torture Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu like this. Although they were grumbling in their hearts, many of the onlooking cultivators felt incomparably excited. Many people even cheered at the side. Now you know how to beg for mercy? Trash like you don't even have the qualifications to lick my shoes clean. If it weren't for the Dark Ocean Divine Kingdom's restriction on fighting to the death, the two of you would already be corpses. All right, scram. Lin Feng waved his sleeve. Bang bang. Two consecutive dull sounds of collision were heard. Mu Liuqing and Lan Jieyu were swept away. The two of them couldn't help but vomit mouthfuls of blood as their auras withered. Although they hated Lin Feng to the core, they now knew that they were no match for Lin Feng. Being able to escape was already a blessing in disguise. How could they dare to stay any longer? They got up and ran off into the distance, afraid that Lin Feng would go back on his word and not let them go. The rest of the young masters who were lying on the ground also quickly got up and ran away. Meng Zishu smiled bitterly and said, I didn't expect Brother Lin to be such an expert. However, after beating up Mu Liuqing, Lan Jieyu, and the others so miserably today, I'm afraid this matter won't be settled so easily. Lin Feng smiled calmly and said, That's fine too. I also need some opponents to sharpen my cultivation. When he saw Lin Feng's nonchalant expression, Meng Zishu was very impressed. Lin Feng continued, "Don't let these people ruin our drinking mood." "Haha, we won't go home until we're drunk today," Meng Zishu said. The two of them entered Wangjun Pavilion. The surrounding cultivators were still excitedly discussing the conflict just now. Everyone was pointing at Lin Feng, and many people even sent their subordinates to investigate Lin Feng's identity. Lin Feng and Meng Zishu asked for a private room, and the two of them drank and chatted. Lin Feng mainly asked Meng Zishu about the various factions of the 9 provinces and some of the top experts. After all, he was about to head to the 9 provinces. He needed to have some understanding of the 9 provinces in advance. It was better to be safe than sorry. Meng Zishu did not hold back and told Lin Feng everything he knew. Bang, bang, bang. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. "Who is it?" Meng Zishu asked. "Young masters, I'm from the Northern Fairy Garden. I'm here to propose a toast to the two of you." A pleasant voice came from outside. The voice was soft and gentle. After hearing it, everyone felt as if their bones were about to go soft. "Who's this?" Lin Feng looked at Meng Zishu. "This is the owner of Wangjun Pavilion. Her identity is very mysterious," Meng Zishu said. Obviously, Meng Zishu knew this woman. Lin Feng nodded. Meng Zishu said, "So it's the fairy from the Northern Fairy Garden. Please come in." A woman pushed the door open and entered, followed by a pretty maidservant. The woman was dressed in white. She was tall and had an otherworldly aura. She was also extremely beautiful. Her face was the size of a palm, and it was exquisite and beautiful. Her rosy cherry lips were especially alluring, and it gave people the urge to suck them and taste them carefully. "Young Master Meng." Northern Fairy Garden bowed to Meng Zishu. Meng Zishu bowed in return. Then, Northern Fairy Garden bowed to Lin Feng. She smiled and said, "I haven't asked for this young master's name yet." Lin Feng. "So it's Lin Gongzi. I took the liberty to come here, so I'll drink 3 cups of wine first. I hope the 2 young masters won't blame me for coming uninvited." Northern Fairy Garden raised her cup and drank 3 cups of wine in a row. Fairy Garden is too polite. Lin Feng didn't let Northern Fairy Garden drink alone. He also drank 3 cups of wine with her. Northern Fairy Garden had clearly seen how Lin Feng had dealt with Mu Luqing, Lan Jueyu, and the others. Thus, she took advantage of Lin Feng's visit to Lord Gazing Restaurant to befriend him. Lin Feng and Meng Zishu invited Northern Fairy Garden to sit down and chat. Northern Fairy Garden happily agreed. This was exactly what she wanted. Northern Fairy Garden was a smooth and slick woman. She was very good at finding topics to chat about, so the atmosphere was very harmonious. Lin Feng received a shocking piece of news from Northern Fairy Garden. The 9 States Alliance's fleet had set off more than a month ago, and their destination was the Nethersea world. When he heard this news, Lin Feng was very happy. He was still hoping to follow the 9 States Alliance's fleet to the 9 States continent. The merfolk are relying on their strength to act lawlessly. They even dared to rob the 9 States Alliance's fleet and destroy 10 of their ships. They've thoroughly angered the 9 States Alliance. Now that the 9 States Alliance's fleet is heading to the Nethersea world, there'll be a good show to watch. Meng Zishu said. It's said that the 9 States Alliance has sent more than 200 warships this time. Such a huge fleet. It's obvious that they want to annihilate the merfolk. Northern Fairy Garden said. When Lin Feng and Meng Zishu heard about the 9 States Alliance's fleet, they were incomparably shocked. So many warships. It was indeed a huge threat to the merfolk. However, it wouldn't be easy to annihilate the merfolk. After all, the merfolk's strength was also very terrifying. However, the 9 States Alliance had to at least show this attitude to restore the 9 States Alliance's reputation. The powers behind the 9 States Alliance are very terrifying. It's said that the 9 States Alliance has some relations with a few immortal sects. Their background is incomparably deep. Meng Zishu said. Northern Fairy Garden said, that's right. The 9 States Alliance does have relations with a few immortal sects. The 9 States Alliance will pay tribute to those immortal sects every year. Without the support of those immortal sects, the 9 States Alliance wouldn't be able to become the 9 States world's #1 merchant alliance. Lin Feng's heart moved. He felt that this northern fairy garden wasn't simple. She knew so much about the Nine States Alliance, but he didn't know who this woman was. Chapter 1654. After the banquet ended, Lin Feng and Meng Zishu left Lord Gazing Pavilion. Meng Zishu invited Lin Feng to stay at the academy, but Lin Feng had already booked an inn, so he tactfully declined. After returning to his residence, Lin Feng took a bath before lying down to rest. Now, he had to wait for the Nine States Alliance's fleet to arrive in the Netherocian Divine Kingdom. Most people probably didn't know about this yet. The fact that the Northern Immortal Garden knew about this showed how extraordinary she was. Brat, get the hell out here. The next day, early in the morning, Lin Feng heard someone shouting outside. He walked out and found that it was Nangong Miaoka who was riding her nine-headed devil lion. With Nangong Miaoka's abilities, Lin Feng wasn't surprised that she had found his residence. Why are you looking for me? He looked at Nangong Miaoka and asked, I heard that you were very impressive yesterday, beating Mu Luqing, Lan Jueyu, and the others half to death? Nangong Miaoka looked coldly at Lin Feng. That's true. Why? Are you here to avenge them? Lin Feng asked indifferently. What does their life or death have to do with me? Nangong Miaoka coldly harumphed and said, I was blind back then and couldn't tell that you were an expert. Today, I'll have a taste of your ultimate techniques. Nangong Miaoka wasn't afraid of anything, and she always caused trouble. She knew that Lin Feng's cultivation was extraordinary, so she wanted to challenge Lin Feng. I don't fight with women, Lin Feng said indifferently. Nangong Miaoka immediately said angrily, Are you looking down on women? Lin Feng flicked his sleeves and said, Women are meant to be loved. That's why I don't choose to fight with women. Some of the onlookers started whispering among themselves. Was this brat trying to flirt with Nangong Miaoka? What a flowery speech. I can tell at a glance that you're not a good person. Nangong Miaoka sneered at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said indifferently, I'm just stating my own point of view. Besides, I'm not interested in you. You don't have a face, you don't have a figure, and you don't have a chest. A woman like you doesn't even have the qualifications to warm my bed. At most, you can only be a servant. Serve tea and water. The corners of many people's mouths twitched violently. This kid really dared to say that. That woman was the famous little demoness Nangong Miaoka. Saying such words to Nangong Miaoka, could it be that he did not want to live anymore? Nangong Miaoku was so angry that her face turned ashen. Women hated it the most when others said that they weren't pretty or that their figure wasn't good. Nangong Miaoka naturally cared about her appearance and figure. She said coldly, Are you blind? The number of people chasing after me can encircle the ancient capital of the Netherworld Sea. How dare you say that I don't have a figure, a face, or a chest? Beat this guy to death. Roar. After receiving the order, the nine-headed devil lion immediately roared. Following that, it jumped up and arrived in front of Lin Feng. It waved its huge claws and slapped towards Lin Feng. That's a divine fire realm beast. I'm afraid that Brad is going to suffer. Seeing the nine-headed devil lion attack Lin Feng, many people immediately cried out in alarm, Little lion, get down. Lin Feng coldly glanced at the nine-headed devil lion, the domineering aura in his body faintly discernible. Cultivators might not be able to sense the domineering aura in Lin Feng's body. However, the perception of a vicious beast had always far surpassed that of a cultivator. Although Lin Feng did not release his domineering aura, after seeing Lin Feng's eyes, the nine-headed devil lion was already so scared that its entire body was trembling. With a plop, it laid down in front of Lin Feng, lowered its head, and let out a fawning cry. This? Many people looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what had happened. The nine-headed devil lion was such a powerful, vicious beast. How could it be tamed so easily? Could it be that this brat was a beast tamer? Rumor had it that beast tamers were able to tame vicious beasts in an extremely short period of time through various mysterious methods. Big Black, bite him. Bite him to death, Nangong Miaoka shouted. However, the nine-headed devil lion remained unmoved. This caused Nangong Miaoka to be furious. Her own mount. It actually didn't listen to her, its master. Nangong Miaoka angrily looked at Lin Feng and said, What did you do to Big Black? Lin Feng laughed lightly and said, This lion is more sensible than its master, knowing that it can't afford to provoke me, so it laid on the ground and took the initiative to submit. All right, let's leave today's matter at that. I don't have the mood to lower myself to the level of a little girl like you. Hurry up and leave. Don't disturb my cultivation. Brat, don't be complacent. We haven't even exchanged blows yet. Take a punch from me first. Nangong Miaoka arrogantly snorted and leaped up from the nine-headed devil lion's body. She punched towards Lin Feng. Above her right hand, there was an endless amount of divine power. It was as if a great amount of power had erupted. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he sent a palm strike towards Nangong Miaoka. Bang! The two of them collided. Nangong Miaoka immediately felt that all the power she had accumulated in her attack was instantly dispersed by Lin Feng. Nangong Miaoka was shocked in her heart. Obviously, she did not expect Lin Feng's cultivation to be so terrifying. Lin Feng withdrew his palm and did not attack Nangong Miaoka, just as he had said, with his breadth of mind. Naturally, he would not bother with a pestering Nangong Miaoka. Nangong Miaoka also quickly retreated a few steps, her expression uncertain. Brat, I've finally found you. At this moment, a sneer came from the distance, and 3 mermen walked over. Hurry up and retreat. It's mermen. When the surrounding cultivators saw the 3 mermen coming over, their expressions suddenly changed, and they quickly made way for the mermen. The merman race was a race that no one dared to offend. Even the Dark Ocean Divine Nation, the overlord of the Dark Ocean, would not provoke the merman race. This was because this race was too powerful, and no one was willing to offend such a powerful race. Among the 3 mermen, one was from the black-scaled race, one was from the dual-winged race, and the last was from the silver-scaled race. These 3 mermen were all terrifyingly strong. Lin Feng indifferently glanced at the 3 mermen and said, What's wrong? Do you need something from me? The 3 mermen looked at Lin Feng with indifferent expressions, and their gaze was sinister and terrifying. You killed He Muya. You deserve to die. Do you know? The merman from the black-scaled race was called He Mushuan. His cold eyes swept towards Lin Feng, filled with killing intent. Many people were shocked. That young cultivator killed a merman? Wasn't this too terrifying? Even Nangong Miaoka was incomparably shocked. She had been guessing Lin Feng's cultivation level just now. She had not expected him to be able to break her attack so easily. Now it seemed like this despicable guy seemed to be far more terrifying than she had imagined. That guy who died was called He Muya? Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. Then, he raised his eyebrows and said, That's right, he was killed by me. Why? Do you want to die as well? Many people laughed bitterly. Facing the 3 powerful mermen, he actually dared to say, You're here to die too. Wasn't this too arrogant? Chapter 1655. The anger in the 3 mermen's hearts was almost uncontrollable. There was actually someone who dared to be so arrogant in front of them. This made the 3 mermen's killing intent surge. The mermen were a high and mighty race. Their race had ruled the sea world for countless eras. This had also nurtured their arrogant character. Brat, you're about to die, yet you still dare to boast shamelessly here. Today, I'll kill you. He Mushuan said coldly. He stepped forward, wanting to kill Lin Feng. Many people were shocked. Were they going to fight? Moreover, it was with mermen. Although these mermen had been trapped for more than 8 million years, their cultivation levels had plummeted. However, they were still incomparably terrifying. Most importantly, although these mermen's cultivation levels had fallen, their comprehension of the Tao had not. After more than 8 million years of life and death battles in the forbidden divine realm, the surviving mermen had a deeper understanding of various Das. Time and time again, the life and death battles had allowed them to constantly temper themselves, reducing complexity to simplicity. Now, they had grasped every move and style. They were different from the ultimate techniques and divine abilities that ordinary cultivators had grasped. Every move they had grasped, every style, they were all simplified killing moves. This made the surviving mermen even more terrifying. They were simply killing machines. Moreover, Although these mermen's cultivation levels had fallen, they were still quasi-true gods. They were abnormally powerful, and their cultivation levels were much higher than Lin Feng's. Therefore, if they really fought, almost no one thought that Lin Feng would be able to contend against these mermen. Perhaps there was no need for the three mermen to attack together. A single mermaid was enough to fight. Just you alone? It's not enough. The three of you can come together. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. Brat, who do you think you are? Are you qualified to make us attack together? Endless killing intent burst out from the eyes of the other two mermen. Lin Feng looked down on them. This made the proud and arrogant merman very angry. The surrounding cultivators who were watching the show were dumbfounded. Originally, seeing Lin Feng provoking the mermen was already arrogant enough. Now they knew. What was that? Look at how angry the three mermen were. Don't worry. I will kill him. Let this brat pay for his stupidity with blood. He Mushuan's voice was indifferent as he spoke to the other two mermen. His attack was ready, and he slashed towards Lin Feng. Please stop, said Lin Feng. A deep shout was heard. Over 100 armored cultivators flew over from afar. The imperial guards of the Dark Sea ancient capital. Seeing the arrival of those cultivators, many people's expressions changed slightly. Then, they shook their heads helplessly with regretful expressions. These imperial guards were all experts. Once they appeared, the battle naturally couldn't continue. The one who spoke was the leader of the imperial guards. He looked to be in his 30s and was tall and sturdy. He gave off a very oppressive feeling. Some people were discussing the identity of this imperial guard. His name was Wu Chao, and he was the vice commander of the imperial guards. He Mushuan's expression turned ugly when he saw the arrival of the imperial guards. However, he stopped and did not continue to attack Lin Feng. No matter how arrogant He Mushuan was, he also knew how to behave in front of the imperial guards in the Dark Sea ancient capital. If he went against the imperial guards, he would definitely be chased out. At that time, he would lose all his face and become a laughing stock. Lieutenant Wu, you really have a lot of free time. You actually have the time to come here. He Mushuan obviously knew Wu Chao. There was a hint of mockery in his voice. Wu Chao said indifferently, I am in charge of the safety of the Dark Sea ancient capital. Where can I not go? As for you, He Mushuan, are you trying to cause trouble in the Dark Sea ancient capital? He Mushuan said, I just want to teach a brat a lesson. How can you say that I'm causing trouble? However, since Lieutenant Wu is here, I will give you face today and let this brat go for now. Let's go. He Mushuan waved his hand and was about to leave with the other two mermen. Did I say you could leave? At that moment, a calm voice was heard. After hearing this voice, everyone had an astonished expression. Everyone turned to look at Lin Feng. Even Nangong Miaoka had doubts in her heart. Lieutenant Wu Chao saved him from this calamity, but this guy stopped He Mushuan. It seems like he doesn't want to let He Mushuan go. What is he trying to do? He Mushuan turned to look at Lin Feng. He was also puzzled. He did not know why Lin Feng had stopped him. You want to leave after acting tough in my place? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Who do you think you are? You can come and go as you please. Now, kneel on the ground and kowtow 10 times to apologize, and I won't bicker with you about what happened today. Lin Feng said indifferently. Everyone was stunned when they heard Lin Feng's words. Arrogant. He was too arrogant. This brat actually made an expert like He Mushuan kneel on the ground and kowtow in apology. Was this brat a fool? Many people muttered in their hearts. Even Lieutenant Wu Chao could not help but frown. Over the years, he had seen all kinds of geniuses and disciples of various aristocratic families. However, he had never seen someone as arrogant as Lin Feng. This was his first time seeing someone like this. However, Wu Chao did not say anything this time. He wanted to see how Lin Feng would deal with this matter. Brat, I think you're tired of living. He Mushuan could not help but roar. His eyes were filled with boundless killing intent. If eyes could kill, Lin Feng would have been cut into pieces by He Mushuan's cold gaze. It seems like you don't intend to kowtow in apology, Lin Feng sneered. He looked at Lieutenant Wu Chao and said, My lord, I believe there should be an arena of life and death in the Nether Ocean ancient capital, right? There is indeed an arena of life and death. Wu Chao nodded and said, Once the arena of life and death is activated, one person will die. Once the arena is activated, one person will die. Haha. Since there's an arena of life and death, that's great. I'll be waiting for you in the arena of life and death in 3 days. Lin Feng looked at He Mushuan coldly. An arena of life and death? Many people became excited. No one expected Lin Feng to challenge He Mushuan. Ha 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 ha. He Mushuan laughed loudly. His face was filled with cruelty as he said, "Since you're in such a hurry to die, in 3 days, I'll come and take your head." You should worry about your own head. Lin Feng pursed his lips. Humph. He Mushuan could not help but snort coldly. He did not say anything else and left with the other 2 mermaids. Wu Chao looked at Lin Feng in a deep and meaningful way and then left with his people. Many of the surrounding cultivators were excitedly discussing the upcoming battle. It would definitely be brilliant, causing them to look forward to it with incomparable anticipation. You arrogant fellow. You recklessly challenged the mermaids. When the time comes, only death will await you. Hurry up and run. Although it's embarrassing, at least you'll be able to keep your life. Nangong Miaoka looked at Lin Feng and said. From her point of view, Lin Feng challenging He Mushuan was like hitting a rock with an egg. Chapter 1656. Lin Feng looked at Nangong Miaoka with a smile and said, "What? Are you concerned about me? Why would I care about you? Don't flatter yourself." Nangong Miaoka snorted. You don't have to be shy. Just admit it. Maybe if I'm happy, I'll promote you from a servant who serves tea to a servant who warms my bed. The night is long and I don't want to sleep. With a servant who warms my bed, I can do a lot of things. Lin Feng glanced at Nangong Miaoka's beautiful body and said with a smile, Damn hooligan, shameless. Nangong Miaoka gritted her teeth in hatred. She had never suffered like today. She wanted to beat Lin Feng up, but she was no match for Lin Feng. She could only endure for now. She jumped onto the 9-headed demon lion and rode it into the sky. Before leaving, she glared at Lin Feng. Lin Feng returned to his room and continued to cultivate. Lin Feng didn't challenge He Mushuan for no reason. Lin Feng wanted to see him after breaking through. What level had his battle strength reached? My sovereign emperor blood was about to awaken a second ability. Now, my cultivation has broken through 2 levels consecutively. It should be time for it to awaken. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He took out the dragon blood. This was the blood of the saber-toothed dragon. The dragon blood was very nourishing. Lin Feng planned to continue using the dragon blood to increase the power of the sovereign emperor blood, hoping to awaken it again. Time passed. 3 days later, Lin Feng refined a large amount of dragon blood. His sovereign emperor blood had been upgraded. Originally, Lin Feng's sovereign emperor blood occupied 15% of his bloodline. Now, it had reached 20%. In these few days, other than using the dragon blood to upgrade his bloodline, he also used tens of thousands of origin crystals to refine the sovereign emperor blood. This was a huge fortune. Ordinary people couldn't afford it. Even for Lin Feng, tens of thousands of origin crystals wasn't a small amount. But, as long as it could help him awaken the second ability of the sovereign bloodline, then everything would be worth it. Lin Feng was well aware of just how powerful the sovereign bloodline's first ability, Sovereign World Annihilation, was. As such, Lin Feng had always been looking forward to the second ability of the sovereign bloodline. This time, after consuming all the dragon blood and tens of thousands of origin crystals, Lin Feng's sovereign bloodline had finally awakened a second ability. The second ability of the sovereign bloodline was called Judgment. He was like the ruler of heaven and earth, judging all living beings in the world. After awakening his second ability, Lin Feng was extremely excited. Right now, he had yet to unleash the second ability of the sovereign bloodline, Judgment. Therefore, he didn't know how powerful this divine ability was. However, there was one thing that Lin Feng was clear about. The second ability of the sovereign's imperial bloodline was definitely much more powerful than the first ability. And in these few days, many people had heard that a young cultivator had issued a life and death challenge to a black-scale mermaid. This incident caused quite a stir in the Dark Sea ancient capital. After all, when it came to the mermen, Everyone's expression changed. And now, someone actually dared to issue a life and death challenge to the mermen. It was truly unexpected. Many people were talking about this matter. On this day, after Meng Zishu received the news, he came to Lin Feng's place. After seeing Lin Feng, Meng Zishu smiled bitterly and said, "I heard that Brother Lin has issued a life and death challenge to He Mushuan of the Black Scale clan. This He Mushuan is a terrifying figure. 8 million years ago, this person was only a step away from stepping into the heavenly god realm. Although he was trapped in the forbidden god realm and his cultivation fell, he is still not to be underestimated. I have a treasure here called the Sun-Moon Universe Bell. It is a forbidden artifact forged from stones of the sun and moon and the power of the universe. It still has 2 uses. Brother Lin, take it. Brother Lin, it might be of great use." As he spoke, Meng Zishu took out a small bell-like treasure. It was obviously the Sun-Moon Universe Bell that he was talking about. This small bell should be a life-saving treasure for Meng Zishu at a critical moment. Now that he had taken it out, Lin Feng felt a slight warmth in his heart. Meng Zishu was a very loyal person. He said, "I appreciate Brother Meng's good intentions, but since I dared to issue a challenge to He Mushuan, I am confident that I can defeat him. So, Brother Meng, you don't need to worry. Let's go to the Lord Pavilion and have a drink tonight. What do you think?" The battle was imminent. Seeing that Lin Feng was still so carefree and still in the mood to drink, Meng Zishu was full of admiration for Lin Feng. He and Lin Feng went to the Lord Pavilion together. When the Northern Fairy Garden heard that Lin Feng had come, she brought some fine wine to Lin Feng in Meng Zishu's private room. She smiled and said, "Tomorrow is a life and death battle. Yet young master still came out to drink? Could it be that young master already has victory in his hands?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "The battle hasn't started yet, so it's hard to predict the outcome. Besides, there's no point in worrying. Why don't we drink to our heart's content and get drunk? Then I'll accompany young master to get drunk tonight." The Northern Fairy Garden smiled and poured Lin Feng a cup of fine wine. The beauty was right beside him, and he could even smell the fragrance of the Northern Fairy Yuan's alluring body. The next day, many cultivators who had heard about the battle rushed to the square where the arena was located. The square was bustling with people, and He Mushuan was the first to arrive. He landed on the arena and waited for Lin Feng to arrive. "He Mushuan is already here. Why isn't that kid here yet? Did he run away before the battle? That's possible." The atmosphere shook. Countless cultivators were discussing the battle. When they saw that Lin Feng hadn't arrived yet, many people thought that Lin Feng had already left the Darksea ancient capital and didn't dare to accept the battle. He Mushuan couldn't help but frown. His expression was gloomy. At that moment, someone suddenly shouted, "Look, that kid is here." Someone recognized Lin Feng and pointed at Lin Feng, who was flying over from afar. When they saw that Lin Feng had arrived, everyone became excited. Everyone hoped that the battle would be more intense. That way, the spectators would be able to watch a free show. He's really young. He's so young, yet he dares to challenge He Mushuan. Isn't he courting death? When they saw Lin Feng, many people started muttering. Lin Feng was too young. They didn't know where Lin Feng got the courage to challenge someone as strong as He Mushuan. "My lord, look, it's him." There were 6 or 7 people standing in the crowd. If Lin Feng saw the person in the lead, he would definitely recognize her. The person in the lead was a woman. That woman was none other than He Mushuan. She was the mysterious woman he met on the 9 States Alliance's ancient ship, Enziru. Enziru had also survived that calamity and had come to the Darksea ancient capital. "I really didn't expect him to be the one challenging He Mushuan. If he's killed by He Mushuan, it will save us a lot of trouble." Enziru narrowed her phoenix eyes and looked at Lin Feng, who was flying over from afar. Chapter 1657. Lin Feng landed on the arena and looked at He Mushuan from 100 meters away. Buzz. At that moment, the restrictions on the arena were activated. A huge energy barrier appeared and enveloped the arena. Unless one of them was killed, the barrier would not dissipate. That was why the arena was so terrifying. "Kid, you're not a coward after all." He Mushuan licked his scarlet tongue, his eyes flashing with killing intent. How exciting! I can't wait to taste your blood. He let out a burst of sinister laughter. A cold aura spread out from He Mushuan's body. The whole world seemed to have turned into a netherworld. It's the nether devil art. It's a peerless technique. He Mushuan is going to use it. A cultivator said solemnly. He Mushuan was indeed terrifying. The aura he emitted was suffocating. Many people felt like ants when they sensed He Mushuan's aura. He Mushuan was a high and mighty god. Ants needed to look up to gods. Do you feel fear now? I'll let you die in fear. He Mushuan's eyes flashed with killing intent. Lin Feng said indifferently, in my eyes, you're just a piece of trash. I'll let you have 3 moves. You can attack me within 3 moves, and I won't fight back. After that, I'll kill you. Isn't that guy being too arrogant? He Mushuan is a quasi-true god. That kid actually dares to look down on him? Doesn't he know that arrogance is sure to lead to defeat? Maybe he has some powerful treasure on him? That's my guess. If he didn't have any powerful treasures, he's a young cultivator. How can he be so arrogant when facing an expert like He Mushuan? Many people started discussing spiritedly. Their eyes were fixed on the 2 people in the arena, afraid that they would miss anything. Kid, you'll pay the price for your arrogance. He Mushuan roared. He Mushuan was clearly infuriated. Lin Feng's contempt toward him caused He Mushuan to feel that his face had been damaged. Right now, he only wanted to tear Lin Feng into pieces. This was the only way to vent his anger. He Mushuan's body was surrounded by netherworld energy. This was the power condensed from the netherworld devil art. All of his abilities were powered by the power of the underworld. Because of that, He Mushuan's attack was extremely strange, and it was incomparably powerful. He Mushuan leaped out and sent a palm strike towards Lin Feng. The terrifying palm strike was about to land on Lin Feng's body. Whoosh! A series of afterimages appeared in the void. Lin Feng instantly retreated tens of meters away, while He Mushuan's attack hit empty air. What a fast speed! Many people couldn't help but gasp. First move. Lin Feng said indifferently, Brat, take this. He Mushuan laughed sinisterly. His hands kept changing seals. A monstrous black fog surged out from his body. Netherworld devil art. Myriad demons devour gods. Screech! Screech! A sharp and ear-piercing cry came from the black fog. Countless demonic shadows began to take shape. They were demons. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. Their roars shook the sky. Each of them was incomparably ferocious. All of them pounced towards Lin Feng. This was an offensive ability recorded in the netherworld devil art. It was a very vicious and evil demonic ability. Sovereign Emperor blood. Evil demons cannot invade. Lin Feng whispered. Stepping forward, the Sovereign Emperor blood in his body circulated. Surges of ruler power flowed through his body. Lin Feng's temperament suddenly changed greatly. At this moment, he became very sacred. Many people had the urge to prostrate themselves in worship. It was as if they were facing a supreme sovereign. The sovereign's meaning. It was to control everything in the world. High and mighty, gods and demons submitted. When the 10,000 demons approached Lin Feng, they couldn't bear the pressure of the Sovereign Emperor blood in Lin Feng's body. They cried out in fear and dodged. You actually scared away my 10,000 demon shadows. You have some skills. Take this netherworld ghost claw. He Mushuan laughed sinisterly. He directly came in front of Lin Feng. His right hand formed a claw and directly grabbed at Lin Feng. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt that he couldn't avoid it. He was hit by the netherworld ghost claw. It locked onto his body. Let's see how you die. He Mushuan sneered. It was as if he could already see Lin Feng's blood staining the arena. But soon, He Mushuan's smile froze on his face. Because Lin Feng traveled through the void and dodged his attack. This was the ability that the golden-winged rock had given to Lin Feng. As Lin Feng's cultivation level increased to the god realm, his void travel was almost instantaneous. Behind me. He Mushuan looked glum and quickly grabbed behind him. 3 attacks have passed and you haven't even touched the corner of my clothes. Your cultivation level is only SOSO. You disappoint me. Lin Feng looked indifferent. He didn't want to fight against He Mushuan. Instead, he quickly retreated a dozen meters. He Mushuan's attack missed again. He Mushuan's speed was much slower than Lin Feng's. Therefore, his attack couldn't touch Lin Feng at all. After Lin Feng retreated, he started to circulate the ruler's imperial blood to activate the second special ability that he had just awakened. Little boy, you're just a little faster. Compared to me, your spiritual power is like the difference between heaven and earth. How dare you boast shamelessly in front of me? Isn't your speed fast? Today, I'll make it so that you can't be fast anymore. Great delaying technique. He Mushuan shouted and used a powerful technique called the 3000 Great Tao. After the great delaying technique was used, in a flash, the entire battle ring was shrouded by a strange power. This power was the power of slowing things down. The power greatly reduced Lin Feng's speed. Great delaying technique. That little boy's speed will be reduced. He'll have no choice but to compete with He Mushuan in terms of spiritual energy. Won't he die for sure? Some cultivators cried out in alarm. Lin Feng's spiritual energy couldn't be compared to He Mushuan's. Many cultivators could sense that. As far as they were concerned, Lin Feng's only way to fight against He Mushuan was to rely on his speed to fight against him. But now, he didn't even have the advantage of speed. The result of this battle was obvious. Die. He Mushuan smiled viciously and charged at Lin Feng. He used the Netherworld Hell Slash to attack Lin Feng. He wanted to cut Lin Feng in half. He Mushuan, it's too early for you to be happy. Today, I'll show you my peerless technique. Lin Feng shouted and walked toward He Mushuan step by step. The power of judgment surged in Lin Feng's body. The power of judgment emitted a dazzling light. At that moment, Lin Feng seemed to have turned into the supreme ruler of heaven and earth. I can rule over 10,000 worlds. I can judge billions of living beings. This technique of mine is called the Sovereign's Judgment, shouted Lin Feng. He raised his right hand and slashed in front of him. The moment the peerless technique, Sovereign's Judgment, was used, between heaven and earth, everything was silent. The power of judgment instantly engulfed He Mushuan. No! He Mushuan screamed in fear. Bang! In the next moment, He Mushuan's body exploded and turned into a bloody mist. His body and soul were destroyed on the spot. Under the attack of the Sovereign's Judgment, He Mushuan didn't even have the power to resist. He was instantly killed by Lin Feng. This was because he had always suspected that N0 had ill intentions towards him. Although N0 didn't show any signs of abnormality, Lin Feng had always trusted his intuition. Now, he was only pretending to be polite with N0. I never thought that I would be able to see the fairy garden here. I've been worried about the fairy garden's safety all this time. Now that I see that the fairy garden is fine, I can finally relax. Lin Feng said with a smile. N0 smiled and said, Sir, are you really worried about my safety? Or are you just saying sweet nothings? Are you trying to make me happy? Lin Feng thought to himself, it would be strange if I cared about you. I'm not even related to you, so why would I care about you? Of course, he couldn't say this to N0. Lin Feng said, Of course I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. Every word comes from the bottom of my heart. Hee hee hee. N0 smiled and said, Thank you for your concern, sir. I've been worried about your safety all this time. Today, when I saw the battle between you and the mermaid cultivator, I knew that you were fine. I could finally heave a sigh of relief. However, when I thought about how powerful the mermaid cultivator was, I became worried again. Luckily, Sir managed to kill the mermaid cultivator. N0 was clearly a person who spoke human language when she saw a person, and spoke ghost when she saw a ghost. Lin Feng naturally didn't believe that N0 was worried about him. Lin Feng asked, Did the fairy garden see my 2 followers when we broke out of the encirclement? I didn't see them. However, your 2 followers have very high cultivations. They should be fine. N0 said, I hope so. Lin Feng nodded. N0 said, During this time, I found a treasure trove. I've obtained a treasure map to a secret overseas treasure trove, and I'm currently deciphering it. Once I've deciphered the map, would you be willing to come with me to explore the overseas treasure trove? Oh, treasure trove? Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. It's said that the treasure trove is on the other side of the Nether Island. That place is very dangerous, but if the treasure trove appears there, we'll definitely reap great rewards, and Zero said. Lin Feng nodded and said, All right, let's go together. It's getting late, so I won't disturb Sir's rest. And Zero stood up. Lin Feng smiled and said, The night is long, and you'll be alone even if you go back. Why don't you stay here tonight? And Zero rolled her eyes at Lin Feng and said, I'm not that kind of woman. Haha, what I meant was that I wanted to invite Fairy Garden to drink and discuss the Tao. I wonder what Fairy Garden is thinking about? Lin Feng said with a smile that wasn't a smile. And Zero's beautiful face blushed slightly. She was really more delicate than a flower. She bit her red lips, as if she was afraid that Lin Feng would say something outrageous, so she quickly left. After Zero left, Lin Feng fell into deep thought. This Zero seemed to be haunting him like a ghost. Did this woman really come with good intentions? Or was she plotting against him? If Zero really wanted to harm him? In this trip to the treasure trove, this woman would definitely reveal her foxtail. The next day, the Northern Immortal Garden sent someone to bring Lin Feng to the gathering at June Gazing Restaurant. This time, Lin Feng was invited by these cultivators. They were basically the upper echelons of the various large factions in the sea, and even a prince from the Nether Ocean Divine Kingdom. Everyone chatted happily, and during the gathering, a group of people also talked about the Nine States Alliance's battleship. The Nine States Alliance's battleship had already arrived at the Nether Ocean. The battle between the Nine States Alliance's battleship and the merfolk was about to erupt. Many people were gloating. It was obvious that the cultivators of the Nether Ocean didn't have a good impression of the merfolk. Now that the merfolk had escaped from the Forbidden God world, they had become one of the largest factions in the Nether Ocean realm. Many of the territories and resources of the other factions had been snatched away by the merfolk. Naturally, many factions were full of complaints about the merfolk. However, the merfolk were too strong, and everyone could only swallow their anger for now. Now that the Nine States Alliance was about to go to war with the merfolk, the various factions of the Nether Ocean realm were happy to see this. Chapter 1659. Over the next few days, the mermaids who were still in the Dark Sea ancient capital left one after another. Clearly, they had heard about the Nine States Alliance's arrival in the Dark Sea. Lin Feng was invited by Northern Fairy Yuan to listen to her music. Not only was Northern Fairy Yuan beautiful, but she was also proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. She was truly a talented woman. Northern Fairy Yuan played a song called Ambush from 10 Sides. This song was filled with a powerful army, and it was filled with killing intent. It complemented the current situation in the Dark Sea. The battle between the Nine States Alliance's fleet and the mermaids was about to break out. Many people even went to watch the battle. After Northern Fairy Yuan finished playing Ambush from 10 Sides, Lin Feng clapped his hands and said, What a good song. I wonder if there's any deeper meaning behind it? Northern Fairy Yuan said, The mermaids have been trapped for more than 8 million years, and their vitality has been greatly damaged. Now that they've escaped from the Forbidden God realm, they need to restore their prestige. Defeating the Nine States Alliance's fleet is a great opportunity for them to do so. They want to announce to the world that the mermaids have returned. Lin Feng said, Isn't the price too high? Think about it, sir. The mermaids haven't been able to escape from the Forbidden God realm for more than 8 million years. Why would they be able to escape now? It's very likely that they had a fortuitous encounter in the Forbidden God realm, and they're very confident now. Northern Fairy Yuan said. Northern Fairy Yuan was a very mysterious woman. She knew many things that others didn't. Lin Feng knew this very well. Since Northern Fairy Yuan had said this, it was obvious that she wasn't speaking without thinking. Lin Feng said, 2 tigers fighting. One of them will definitely be injured. This battle is also something that all the great powers in the Dark Sea want to see. Northern Fairy Yuan nodded and said, These powers can't wait for the mermaids and the Nine States Alliance to be defeated. The next day, Lin Feng also went to the sea where the battle was taking place. When he arrived, the battle had already begun. The mermaids could control the power of the sea. The center of the battle was filled with white fog that blocked out the sun. It was impossible to see what was happening inside. It's them. Lin Feng saw 5 cultivators shrouded in black robes, although they had already taken human form. However, Lin Feng still felt a familiar aura. These 5 people were none other than the 5 Yazi holy beasts that had escaped from the 9th layer of the Forbidden God realm. Since these guys are here, who knows what terrifying things will happen. I'd better run away. Lin Feng hurriedly left. The 5 Yazis were too terrifying. Furthermore, they were extremely evil. Lin Feng had seen them devour all the living beings on the island, so how could he dare to stay any longer? About 30 miles away, Lin Feng was attacked. A woman in a black dress flashed out of the void and sent a palm strike towards Lin Feng. Bang! Lin Feng's fist collided with his fist, and he was blown away. Wow! He spat out a mouthful of blood, his face as pale as a sheet of paper. The gap between the two sides was simply too great. F***CK, who are you? Why did you sneak attack me? Lin Feng glared fiercely at the woman in front of him. She was wearing a black dress and was tall and slender. Her voluptuous figure was simply too provocative. Moreover, she was too seductive. Lin Feng had never seen such a seductive woman before. Just one look at her was enough to make one sink into her beauty. You released the 5 Yazis and caused this queen to be chased by them. Now, this queen's strength has dropped from the heavenly god realm to the true god realm. This queen can't wait to cut you into pieces. The woman gnashed her teeth as she spoke. Snake Queen. Lin Feng's scalp went numb. So this woman was actually the Snake Queen in human form. Now, he carefully sensed the condition of her body. This woman's condition wasn't too good. Her aura was chaotic. Clearly, she was heavily injured. This queen will capture you and let you taste the most painful torture in the world. Only then will I kill you. The Snake Queen's eyes were filled with cold killing intent as she charged towards Lin Feng. I don't have time to play with you. Lin Feng threw out more than 10 divine weapons. Boom! More than 10 incomparably precious weapons all exploded. The destructive power swept through the world and engulfed the Snake Queen. If the Snake Queen was still in the heavenly god realm, she naturally wouldn't be afraid. But now, she was heavily injured by the 5 Yazis and her cultivation had dropped. How could she dare to resist the power of more than 10 divine weapons? Therefore, after seeing more than 10 divine weapons, the Snake Queen quickly retreated. After the energy of the explosion dissipated, Lin Feng was long gone. 100 miles away, Lin Feng walked out of the void. He used his immortal body to recover from his injuries. Then, he couldn't help but curse. This Snake Queen actually survived the pursuit of the 5 Yazis. The heavens really don't have eyes. This woman is too scary. Fortunately, I successfully escaped from her pursuit this time, but it's hard to say next time. I'll return to the ancient capital and see if I can find a way to deal with this woman. Lin Feng didn't stop and quickly returned to the ancient capital. He went to the auction house to ask for information, hoping to find a way to deal with the Snake Queen. Lin Feng met an elder of the auction house. This elder was called Ma Mingbo. He was one of the cultivators who had invited Lin Feng to the banquet. When he heard that Lin Feng wanted to fight against the Snake Empress, he smiled and said, "The Snake Empress is a snake woman. Many men drool over her. They all want to have her as a concubine. Could it be that Brother Lin wants to have her as his concubine? But the Snake Queen now is not the same as before. Back then, her cultivation was not as strong as it is now. There was still a chance of subduing her, but many failed and died tragically. Now, the Snake Queen has become one of the strongest independent cultivators in the Dark Sea. Who would dare to provoke her? Brother Lin, you have many beautiful women. With your ability, what kind of woman can't you get? Listen to my advice. Don't try to get the Snake Queen. If you're not careful, you'll be doomed." Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. It seemed that Ma Mingbo must have been a playboy when he was young. He was so old, but when he heard that Lin Feng wanted to deal with the Snake Queen, he actually thought that Lin Feng had some dirty thoughts about the Snake Queen. Lin Feng wailed in his heart. "I've been targeted by the Snake Queen. If I don't find a way to get rid of her, I'll most likely be killed by her." Lin Feng said, "I had a conflict with the Snake Queen. She's watching me and won't let me go. I need to find something to defend myself. Ma Mingbo said, there's such a thing? Being targeted by the Snake Queen won't be easy to deal with. But brother, you came to the right place. Some time ago, someone put up a treasure for sale at the auction house. Perhaps you can use it to deal with the Snake Queen. Oh, what treasure could be so powerful? Lin Feng was shocked. Chapter 1660. What kind of treasure is this? Asked Lin Feng. He was intrigued. This treasure has a great history. Ma Mingbo lowered his voice and said, Brother, have you heard of the immortal binding rope? Lin Feng was shocked. Isn't the immortal binding rope a magic treasure of Du Xing Sun's master, Zhu Lu Sun? The Jade Void Temple was one of the 3 major branches of Taoism, and its master was the primordial Lord of Heaven. Zhu Lu Sun was one of the 12 golden immortal disciples of the primordial Lord of Heaven, and his magic power was monstrous. It was said that he gathered the 9 heaven sun moon vine as the main material, and then fused it with the immortal magic crystal and dozens of other precious materials. Then, he used the grand sun devil fire to refine it for 2,750,000 years before successfully refining a treasure. This treasure was the famous immortal binding rope of the Xiantian era. Other than saints, golden immortals could not bind it. Cultivators below the golden immortal level could easily bind it and not struggle. It was simply terrifying. Gods were afraid of gods, and immortals were afraid of immortals. Could it be that this powerful treasure is the immortal binding rope? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and he could not help but ask. If it was really the immortal binding rope, what was a mere Snake Queen? He could directly use the immortal binding rope to bind the Snake Queen. At that time, even if the Snake Queen's magic power was monstrous, she would not be able to struggle. Ma Mingbo said, This is the immortal binding rope. It's not the immortal binding rope. Oh? Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. The immortal binding rope is a primordial spiritual treasure. It's equivalent to a celestial weapon. It's extremely terrifying. The treasure in the auction house is an imitation of the immortal binding rope made by a great emperor in the ancient times. It's not as powerful as the immortal binding rope, but it can't be underestimated. If it's used well, it can catch the Serpent Queen unawares and bind her. Ma Mingbo said. Lin Feng said, This immortal binding rope. I want it. Haha, brother, the price of this immortal binding rope is not low, Ma Mingbo said. Lin Feng smiled and said, Don't worry, just go and get it. Brother, please wait for a moment. I'll go to the treasury and get the immortal binding now. Ma Mingbo stood up, clasped his fists, and left quickly. After leaving the auction house, Lin Feng went straight back to his residence. In the next few days, the cultivators in the Dark Sea ancient capital were talking about the battle between the 9 States Alliance and the Merfolk race. New battle reports kept coming in. Lin Feng also received the latest news. The 9 States Alliance had lost more than 50 battleships and suffered heavy losses. They had no choice but to withdraw from the battlefield and reorganize. Northern Fairy Yuan is right. Looks like the mermen have a terrifying trump card. I wonder what kind of treasure the mermen have in their possession. Lin Feng couldn't help but rub his chin as he pondered. The fact that the Merfolk race was able to escape from the Forbidden God realm meant that there were too many problems. On this day, Lin Feng and Meng Zishu went to Wangjun restaurant to drink. The Northern Fairy Yuan came to their private room. The Northern Fairy Garden brought a piece of news. The Merfolk race had a broken stone statue. A broken stone statue? The stone race? The stone race that failed to hatch? Lin Feng was puzzled. If the statue is broken, how can it still be so powerful? It's said that in the Forbidden God realm, more than 10,000 mermen sacrificed themselves to that broken stone statue. They lost more than 10,000 mermen, but in the end, the sacrifice succeeded. An imperial uncle of the Merfolk race destroyed his own body and placed his soul inside the statue. That way, he gained control of the statue and its abilities. The Northern Fairy Yuan explained. Lin Feng couldn't help but gasp. That was too terrifying. The stone race that was born were usually very heaven-defying, especially in the Forbidden God realm. The stone race that was born in a place like the Forbidden God realm was unimaginably terrifying. No wonder the merfolk race was so fearless. The Nine States Alliance has suffered heavy losses. More than 50 battleships and hundreds of thousands of people have been killed by the merfolk race. The Nine States Alliance has suffered a great loss this time. Meng Zishu said. Rumor has it that the Nine States Alliance has invited the experts of the great immortal sects to deal with the stone race. The Northern Fairy Yuan said. By now, Lin Feng had a certain understanding of the Nine States Alliance's powers. The strongest powers in the Nine States were the 10 great immortal sects. Below them were the 10 great immortal sects. Below them were the sacred grounds, ancient sects, aristocratic clans, and ancient dynasties. Below them were the ancient countries, sects, and other powers. In the Nine States Alliance, only the 10 great immortal sects dared to use the word immortal to name their sections. It was said that the 10 great immortal sects possessed the immortal scriptures. In the past, even the great emperor had hoped to see the immortal scriptures of the 10 great immortal sects. It was said that the immortal scriptures recorded the secrets to becoming an immortal. Of course, no one knew if the rumors were true. However, the 10 great immortal sects were indeed terrifying. The sect leaders of the 10 great immortal sects were almighty gods. In the entire universe, they were overlords. I wonder which immortal sects are behind the Nine States Alliance? Lin Feng asked. The 10 great immortal sects are the Taishang Immortal Sect, the Feather Immortal Sect, the Heavenly Tao Immortal Sect, the Sunset Immortal Sect, the Undying Immortal Sect, the Red Dust Immortal Sect, the 10,000 Laws Immortal Sect, the Sword Saint Immortal Sect, the Longevity Immortal Sect, and the Reincarnation Immortal Sect. I think the Nine States Alliance might be related to the Heavenly Tao Immortal Sect, the 10,000 Laws Immortal Sect, and the Longevity Immortal Sect. Lin Feng frowned slightly. The Feather Immortal Sect and the Longevity Immortal Sect were two powers that puzzled him. Lin Feng said, in the Tianwu continent, there's the Feather Immortal Dynasty and the Longevity Temple. I wonder if they're related to these two immortal sects? The Feather Immortal Dynasty was founded by the descendants of the Feather Immortal Sect's Great Elder. Due to the separation of the Nine States Alliance, the Feather Immortal Dynasty and the Feather Immortal Sect faced each other across the ocean. The Longevity Temple was founded by the Longevity Immortal Emperor, Chan Changsheng. It's said that the Longevity Immortal Emperor cultivated in the Longevity Immortal Sect when he was young, so these two powers have a close relationship. Northern Fairy Yuan explained. Lin Feng nodded, but his expression was unsightly. Back then, he had killed Huangfu Qingtian. A mysterious woman had taken Huangfu Qingtian's corpse away. That woman was too terrifying. Was she from the Feather Immortal Sect of the Nine States Alliance? Lin Feng came back to his senses and asked, what about the Reincarnation Immortal Sect? The Reincarnation Immortal Sect isn't simple. They passed down the Reincarnation Immortal Scripture, which contains the cultivation method of the great reincarnation art. Northern Fairy Yuan said. Lin Feng was shocked. The Reincarnation Immortal Sect actually had the great reincarnation art? He had only cultivated half of it. Did that mean he could go to the Reincarnation Immortal Sect and cultivate the other half? What about the Undying Immortal Sect? Asked Lin Feng. He had the Undying Divine Blood. That was why he was very curious about the Undying Immortal Sect. The Undying Immortal School is extremely mysterious. No one knows where it is, but the Undying Immortal School is abnormally powerful. The leader of the Undying Immortal School is the Undying Clan, and it is said that they possess the Undying Divine Body, which is a physique passed down through their bloodline. It's a heaven-defying physique. What? The Undying Clan? The Undying Divine Body Clan? Lin Feng's facial expression became gloomy. His father had awakened the Undying Divine Body. He had also awakened the Undying Divine Body. Was there any connection between him and the Undying Clan? Chapter 1661. Before his father passed away, he had left behind a message that their bloodline had long been destroyed. That was why it had taken a long time. No one had been able to awaken the undying divine blood passed down by their ancestors. His father had only awakened it by chance. He had awakened the undying divine blood because he had inherited his father's bloodline. Lin Feng thought about the people of the Lin clan who had been captured. A large hand had come from the sky. Everyone had been captured. Who had captured them? Was it related to the undying immortal sect? For a moment, Lin Feng's mind was in a mess. However, Lin Feng knew that now was not the time to think about such things. In the future, when he returned to the 9 states, he would ask around. The gathering ended. When Meng Zishu and Lin Feng were about to leave, Northern Fairy Yuan called out to Lin Feng. Meng Zishu returned to Yuelu Academy first. Let's take a walk in the garden, Northern Fairy Yuan said. There was a large garden behind Wangjun Pavilion, and the environment was elegant. Lin Feng nodded and followed Northern Fairy Yuan to the garden. Northern Fairy Yuan said, I heard that young master has been very close to a woman recently. Lin Feng said, Are you talking about Enziru? That's right. That's her. She's not simple. Northern Fairy Yuan said. Lin Feng said, I met her on the 9 States Alliance's ancient ship. I always felt that she had ulterior motives towards me, but I didn't have any proof. Northern Fairy Yuan said, She's related to the Ascension Immortal Sect? Oh, the Ascension Immortal Sect? Lin Feng's eyelids twitched violently. The Ascension Immortal Dynasty was equivalent to a branch of the Ascension Immortal Sect. Huangfu Qingtian was the prince of the Ascension Immortal Dynasty, and the dynasty's hope. Huangfu Qingtian had been killed by him. Enziru was related to the Ascension Immortal Sect. Lin Feng was able to deduce many things from those layers of relationships. Northern Fairy Yuan said, We don't know how she's related to the Ascension Immortal Sect for now. Lin Feng replied, This information is extremely important to me. Thank you for your reminder. Northern Fairy Yuan smiled as she replied, It's just a small matter. Moreover, we're friends, so it's only natural for us to help each other. Lin Feng left the Northern Immortal Court. In the next few days, he had been cultivating in seclusion, until Enziru came to Lin Feng. Lin Gongzi, I've successfully deciphered the secrets of the overseas treasure trove. Shall we set off for the Nether Islands tomorrow? Enziru said with a smile. Lin Feng already had a general idea of Enziru's identity and knew that this woman was definitely trying to use this trip to the hidden treasure to deal with him. However, Lin Feng didn't care. He was quite interested in this trip to the overseas treasure trove. Lin Feng walked over to Enziru and smiled. Of course, there's no problem. How many people will go? There aren't many people. Including the young master, there are 8 of them. Enziru said, All right. Lin Feng nodded. His right hand wrapped around Enziru's soft waist. What are you doing, young master? Enziru's expression changed slightly. Lin Feng smiled wickedly. I just feel that you're becoming more and more mesmerizing tonight. It's hard for me to control myself. She could feel the heat from Lin Feng's hand, and that impudent action of hers. Enziru's face turned red. She was angry, furious, and embarrassed. She pushed Lin Feng away. She bit her lip and said, Don't go too far, young master. Otherwise, we can't even be friends anymore. She then left as if she was running away. Lin Feng sniffed his right hand. It seemed like he could still smell Enziru's scent. He sneered, You dare to say that we can't even be friends after scheming against me? After Enziru left Lin Feng's residence, she couldn't help but frown. She had the feeling that Lin Feng wasn't the same as before. He seemed a little too impudent. This was different from the Lin Feng Enziru knew. My lord, you don't look too good. Did something happen? Enziru's subordinates rushed over, and a female subordinate asked. Enziru naturally couldn't tell them what Lin Feng had done to her. She pretended to be calm and said, It's nothing. Go back and prepare today. Tomorrow, we'll head to the Netherworld Island. We'll use Lin Feng's power to obtain the treasure. Once we get the treasure, we'll kill him. This is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The subordinates laughed. The next day, Lin Feng met up with Enziru's group of 7. Then, they headed to the Netherworld Island. Although the Netherworld Island was a dangerous place, it had been the site of a great battle in ancient times, so there were many hidden treasures. Therefore, there were always many cultivators who took the risk to search for the treasures. 10 days later, Lin Feng's group arrived at the outskirts of the Netherworld Island. Black fog rolled around the outskirts of the island. They entered the black fog. Before long, a mournful cry was heard. One of Enziru's subordinates trembled, and his body began to fester. A pitch-black worm crawled out of his mouth. It's a corpse worm. A very terrifying, poisonous worm. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly, and he slashed out with his sword Qi, killing the worm. At this time, Enziro's subordinates were already dead. The corpse fell to the ground and quickly became a rotten corpse. What a terrifying corpse worm. The others' expressions became very serious. Use your magic power to form a magic power barrier to protect yourselves, Enziro said in a low voice. The others hurriedly formed a magic power barrier to protect themselves. This way, they could prevent the corpse worm from burrowing into their bodies. The group's expressions became much more serious. This netherworld island was much more terrifying than they had imagined. They continued to walk deeper into the island. Before long, the ground began to tremble slightly. Hurry up and hide, Lin Feng said in a low voice. He took the lead and rushed into the distance, hiding behind a huge rock. As for Enziro and the others, they also found a place to hide. Soon, a group of soldiers rushed over from afar. At the front was a group of cavalrymen. There were a total of 10 cavalrymen. Behind the cavalrymen were hundreds of infantrymen wearing black armor. Are those the netherworld soldiers? Lin Feng was horrified. The 10 cavalrymen were riding black demonic beasts, but they had already become skeletons. However, even though they had become skeletons, they were still alive. They had become the mounts of the netherworld soldiers. What a strange netherworld island. There are netherworld soldiers guarding it. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. He felt that this netherworld island was hiding a huge secret. It wasn't as simple as having many treasures. These netherworld soldiers, they must be guarding something important. Buzz. Suddenly, a treasure in Lin Feng's mountain river ring emitted a slight fluctuation. Chapter 1662. The martial talisman that was emitting violent waves was the fire demon talisman. This was the second martial talisman that Lin Feng had obtained. Back then, he had collected 3 bluestone martial talismans, and his martial soul had evolved from 3 devouring martial souls to 5 devouring martial souls. Later, Lin Feng had obtained the second martial talisman, which was the fire demon talisman. There were also 3 fire demon talismans scattered between heaven and earth. On the back of the martial talisman, there was a map that pointed to the location of the other martial talisman. The fire demon talisman that Lin Feng had obtained also had a map, but it pointed to the starry sky world. Although Lin Feng had entered the starry sky world before, he was not familiar with it. It was difficult for him to determine the location of the second fire demon talisman through the map on the back of the martial talisman. Lin Feng did not expect to encounter the third fire demon talisman here. This was because the martial talisman would only react when it sensed other martial talismans. This was also why Lin Feng dared to confirm that there was a third martial talisman on this island in the Nether Sea. This made Lin Feng very happy. If he could obtain this fire demon talisman, then he would only need the one in the starry sky world to gather the 3 fire demon talismans. When the time came, refine the fire demon talisman, his martial soul evolved again. Martial souls were related to bloodline inheritance. Therefore, martial souls and bloodlines were opposite and complementary. The stronger one's martial soul was, the more powerful one would be when activating one's bloodline. For example, Lin Feng now had 5 martial souls, and he used the Sovereign Destroyer's ultimate skill. 5 martial souls is 1. Then the Sovereign Destroyer's attack. If Lin Feng had 6 devouring martial souls, 6 devouring martial souls is 1. He would also use the Sovereign Destroyer's ultimate skill. Naturally, when the 6 devouring martial souls is 1, the power released would be even stronger. Martial souls is 1, then activating the Sovereign Bloodline to attack. This was Lin Feng's strongest battle state. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and tried his best to restrain his aura. He waited for the Nether soldiers to leave. These Nether soldiers seemed to be patrolling Nether soldiers, so they would not stay in one place for a long time. They left quickly. They went to other places. After the Netherworld soldiers left, Lin Feng and the others walked out. The Netherworld islands are indeed strange. They even have Netherworld soldiers guarding them. Everyone, be careful. And Zero said. Everyone nodded and carefully walked into the inner part of the Nether Island. After avoiding 3 to 4 waves of patrolling Nether soldiers, they entered the interior of the Nether Island. It's here. And Zero pointed at the palace. Lin Feng's eyes twitched violently, because after arriving outside the palace, the fire demon talisman's fluctuations became more and more intense. Obviously, there should be a fire demon talisman in this palace. Lin Feng suppressed the excitement in his heart. He was determined to obtain this fire demon talisman. The few of them carefully observed the palace. It was about 100 meters tall and covered an area of 5 or 6 acres. It was densely covered with demonic runes. It was obvious that this palace was built by a demonic expert. This palace itself is a supreme treasure, Lin Feng said. This palace is called Chonglu Demon Palace. It was built by the Demon Emperor Chonglu. And Zero said, Demon Emperor Chonglu? So it's him. The famous Demon Emperor of the immemorial era. It is said that he fell in the catastrophe at the end of the immemorial era. Lin Feng said, That's right. The chaos of the immemorial era was too tragic. Even the powerful great emperors died in battle. I really don't know what those experts experienced. And Zero sighed. Then, Zero retracted her thoughts and said, Lin Gongzi is proficient in great arrays. We will have to rely on you to break through the Chonglu Demon Palace. Lin Feng nodded and said, I can give it a try. I hope I can break through these demonic runes. After spending about 10 days, Lin Feng finally broke through the restrictions that enveloped the Chonglu Demon Palace. Rumble. He stretched out his hands and forcefully pushed the door of the Chonglu Demon Palace. Suddenly, the door shook violently. Ha 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 ha, everyone, thank you for helping me break through the door of the Chonglu Demon Palace. If you want to live, then leave quickly. Otherwise, only death awaits you. At this moment, a cold laugh came from afar. A group of more than 10 cultivators quickly flew over. Chapter 1663. Who are you? And Zero asked. She seemed very calm. The world of cultivators was a place of mutual deception. Killing and stealing other people's treasures happened every day. It wasn't the first time Zero had encountered such a thing. Even Lin Feng had encountered such a thing several times, so he wasn't surprised to see these people appear. We are the core disciples of the Taishang Immortal Sect. Now that you know who we are, leave quickly. The leader of the group, a male cultivator in purple, had an arrogant expression on his face as he spoke. Hearing the words Taishang Immortal Sect, Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. This was the #1 immortal sect in the 9 states. It was a huge force that he had heard of before. Previously, he had heard Northern Immortal Yuan talk about the Taishang Immortal Sect and the Red World Fairy. He had also heard Northern Immortal Yuan talk about how arrogant and despotic the Taishang Immortal Sect was. Now, he finally saw the disciples of this immortal sect. So what if you're from the Taishang Immortal Sect? We discovered this place first, and we also broke the restrictions. We have no intention of becoming enemies with the Taishang Immortal Sect. Everyone, leave quickly. And Zero said indifferently. Lin Feng stood in place and didn't say anything. And Zero's attitude was very tough. It seemed like this woman had a trump card. Otherwise, she wouldn't have such a fearless expression when facing this group of experts from the Taishang Immortal Sect. All the land under the sky belongs to the king, and all the land belongs to the king. The Supreme Celestial Sect is the leader of the Celestial Path, and we control the great world of the 9 provinces. Any treasure in the great world of the 9 provinces that we like belongs to the Supreme Celestial Sect. The cultivator in purple sneered. This person was called Li Muzi. He had an arrogant expression and looked askance at Zero. His words were indescribably arrogant. Lin Feng thought that he was arrogant enough. It turned out that compared to these people from the Taishang Immortal Sect, Lin Feng realized that he was thousands of miles away. These people from the Taishang Immortal Sect completely regarded the 9 states' great world as their backyard. What a joke. Even when the Taishang Immortal Sect was at its peak, it didn't dare to say that everything under the sky belonged to the king, and everything on the shore belonged to the king. No matter how strong the Taishang Immortal Sect was, it was just a sect. The 9 provinces' great world wasn't an empire, and the Taishang Immortal Sect wasn't the imperial family of an empire. Now, The Taishang immortal sect strength is no longer what it used to be, and the Red World Fairy is keeping it in check. And Zero mocked. When these people heard Zero's ridicule, their gazes turned cold. Their eyes flashed with dense killing intent. Since you want to die, we'll help you, Limuzi shouted coldly. Whoosh! Immediately after, the dozen or so disciples of the Supreme Immortal Sect all took out a flying sword. They were all flying swords of the divine artifact level. The reason why the Supreme Immortal Sect was so powerful was because of the terrifying inheritance of the Immortal Sect. Other celestial sects, such as the Reincarnation Celestial Sect, mainly passed down the Tao of Reincarnation. However, the orthodoxies of the Supreme Immortal Sect included the Sword Sect, the Tao Sect, the Prime Sect, the Prime Clear Sect, and so on. Every single one of them was abnormally terrifying. Limuzi and the others were most likely from the Sword Sect lineage of the Supreme Immortal Sect. The strongest inheritance of this lineage was the immortal slaying sword formation. In addition, there were 365 peerless sword techniques. Each sword technique had the power to defy the heavens and the earth. Don't be too smug. I have my own ways to deal with you people. And Zero snorted coldly. She waved her right hand, and a treasure flew out. This treasure was a blood-red demonic saber. The blood on the demonic saber looked like it had just been stained. Streams of murderous aura spread across the place. Demonic saber of blood. Demonic saber of blood. A deep voice came from the demonic saber. The demonic saber of blood flew out quickly. Clang, 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 clang. A series of collision sounds rang out. Cracking sounds could be heard, and all of a sudden, the divine weapons started to crack. Seeing this scene, everyone's expression was aghast. Demonic saber of blood. It's actually this treasure. You. Who are you? Limuzi cried out in horror. Go ask the king of hell. And Zero's expression was cold. She controlled the demonic saber of blood to attack Limuzi and the others. The demonic saber of blood was too powerful. It could even destroy divine artifacts in one hit, let alone cultivators. How could they block it? Pooh. Ripping sounds could be heard. One by one, the Supreme Immortal Sect disciples were killed by the demonic saber of blood. And Zero could be said to be ruthless. Lin Feng saw another side of her. At the same time, Lin Feng raised his guard against Zero. The demonic saber of blood was so terrifying. If the people from the Supreme Immortal Sect hadn't appeared, she would have exposed it. Lin Feng didn't even know that Zero had such a precious treasure. The Supreme Immortal Sect disciples were killed one by one. However, the leading disciple, Limuzi, had extraordinary means and managed to escape in the end. The demonic saber of blood completely devoured the flesh and blood essence of those who died. Not a single bit was left. This demonic saber was extremely domineering. It was unknown who had forged this treasure. It was definitely a peerless demonic weapon. Whoosh! And Zero waved her hand, and the demonic saber of blood flew back to her hand. Then, she put it away. She smiled at Lin Feng and said, Lin Gongzi, we can't touch these people's storage rings. If we have their things on us, with the Supreme Immortal Sect's methods, they will definitely be able to sense our presence. When the time comes, they will send experts to kill us. That will be a very troublesome matter. Lin Feng nodded and said, these people don't have anything good. The real treasure should be in the Demon Palace. He pushed open the door of the Chonglu Devil Palace as the few of them entered. Upon entering the demonic palace, everyone saw a divine statue in the middle of the first hall. This statue was Demon Emperor Chonglu Wush. Suddenly, an ice-cold light emerged and moved straight towards Lin Feng. It was as fast as lightning. It suddenly exploded behind Lin Feng. It wanted to catch Lin Feng off guard and kill Lin Feng directly. The person who attacked was Zero. She took out the demonic saber of blood and attacked Lin Feng. It's done. And Zero and the other four people's eyes suddenly lit up. It was as if they could see Lin Feng being killed by the demonic saber of blood. However, when the saber pierced through Lin Feng's body dissipated on its own. Afterimage. And Zero's expression became very unsightly. And Zero, I already knew that you were related to the Feather Immortal Sect. The Feather Immortal dynasty is a branch of the Feather Immortal sect. This means that you are related to the Feather Immortal dynasty and Huangfu Qingtian. Who are you? Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at Nziro. The 9 demons picture was floating above his head. With this treasure protecting him, he was not afraid of the demonic saber of blood. Chapter 1664. Lin Feng, I knew it wouldn't be easy to deal with you. However, you shouldn't have entered this palace. As for my identity, you can go to hell and ask the king of hell. Nziro looked at Lin Feng coldly. In truth, Lin Feng had changed his appearance. When he first met Nziro, he had told her that he was called Lin Qing. Naturally, Nziro knew Lin Feng's real identity, so she had told him Lin Feng's real name. Lin Feng said indifferently, "You've been plotting against me for so long. Even if you want my life, you should at least tell me why I'm dead, right?" Nziro remained silent for a moment before saying, "All right, since you want to know why you're dead, there's no harm in telling you. Do you know Huangfu Qingtian's identity?" Lin Feng said, "The son of the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty's emperor." Nziro snorted. How could a mere emperor of the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty be qualified to be Huangfu Qingtian's father? Lin Feng was startled. It seemed that Huangfu Qingtian had another identity. However, he didn't know what his identity was. Lin Feng asked, "Is Huangfu Qingtian the son of some great figure in the 9 provinces Ascension Immortal sect?" Nziro said, "The Ascension Immortal sect has a holy maiden. Back then, she had a dream of connecting with heaven and earth, and she got pregnant because of it. Many people were jealous of her, and they wanted to kill her and her child. However, the Holy Maiden took a huge risk and crossed the endless sea to reach the martial heaven continent. She gave birth to Huangfu Qingtian and allowed him to grow up here. After that, the Holy Maiden returned to the 9 provinces Ascension Immortal sect." Bah, you're really full of lies. How can a person get pregnant in a dream? If a woman can get pregnant in a dream, what do you need men for? Lin Feng curled his lips. He didn't believe in Nziro. That was too much nonsense. Nziro sneered and said, "Heaven and earth resonance is rare, but it's not unheard of. Every child born from it has heaven-defying talent and luck, and Huangfu Qingtian proved this point. First, he swallowed the blood of a true dragon. Then he obtained the orthodoxy of Pangu Immortal, and even the orthodoxy of Yuanshi Tianzuan. But in the end, he was destroyed by you." Lin Feng frowned. His instincts told him that Nziro wasn't lying. However, he still found it unbelievable. After all, it was indeed unthinkable to have suspicions after a dream. Nziro said coldly, "You killed Huangfu Qingtian. The Saintess naturally won't let you off. Now that you know everything you want to know, if you want to die quickly, do it yourself. If you don't know what's good for you, I don't mind killing you." Heh. Lin Feng sneered and said, "You want to kill me with just your strength? Aren't you overestimating yourselves? I know that your cultivation is strong and you have great treasures, but I have this sheepskin scroll, and I can activate the runes inside it." Then, he sprinkled it on the statue of the demon emperor Chonglu. Then, Lin Feng bowed 3 times to the statue of the demon emperor Chonglu. Then, he said, "Lin Feng, today, I offer the blood of a god as a sacrifice. I hope I can open the palace the demon emperor left behind. I'm a young hero. I'm invincible at the same cultivation level. I'll definitely become a great emperor in the future. I don't want to humiliate you, master." As Lin Feng's voice fell, all the blood, it was all swallowed by the statue. Rumble. Then, the door that was originally open closed again. A gloomy voice sounded, "Kid, when others come to ask for the orthodoxy, they kneel 3 times and kowtow 9 times, and then all kinds of pleading and praying. You, on the other hand, have an awesome look." Chapter 1665. Lin Feng said indifferently, "Because I have the strength, I can act tough." Ha 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 ha. You are quite good at talking. Compared to those people, you are indeed very strong. More importantly, you have great potential. The gloomy voice sounded again. "How should I address you?" Lin Feng asked. "Aren't you afraid of me?" The owner of the voice asked curiously. Lin Feng said, "Why should I be afraid of you? Aren't you afraid that I will kill you?" The owner of the voice said indifferently. Said Lin Feng, "If you wanted to attack me, you would have done it already. You didn't need to wait until now. Besides, if you want to kill me, it won't be that easy. With my strength, leaving this demon palace isn't that difficult," said Lin Feng. "Since that's the case, I will congratulate you on becoming the new master of the Chonglu Demon Palace." Swish. Shortly after, a huge black bear appeared in the palace. "I am the spirit of the Chonglu Demon Palace, the Black Bear Devil Emperor." The black bear said, Excuse me. Have you been waiting here for the new master of the Chonglu Demon Palace?" Lin Feng asked. "That's right. I've been waiting for a long time. Dozens of people have come, but none of them are qualified to become the new master of the Chonglu Demon Palace. I ate them all." The Black Bear Devil Emperor said. "How cruel." Lin Feng was speechless. The Black Bear Devil Emperor said, "The secret of the Chonglu Demon Palace can't be exposed so easily." "Then why did you let that woman go?" Lin Feng asked. "Because the Chonglu Demon Palace will welcome a new master. You can deal with that woman." The Black Bear Devil Emperor said. "Ha ha ha, I like hearing that." Lin Feng laughed loudly. Then, he said, "What kind of person is the Devil Emperor?" "He's amazing. He's one of the strongest cultivators in history. In the past, he was the one who had the greatest hope of becoming an immortal. Unfortunately, he died in the battle at the end of the immemorial era. Otherwise, he might have been immortal." The Black Bear Devil Monarch said regretfully, "Perhaps this is fate. What exactly is going on with this ancient upheaval? Rumor has it that Hou-Yi killed the 9 golden crows, and Di-Jun killed Hou-Yi. Because of that, the sorcerer tribe was displeased, and a war broke out. I wonder if the rumor is true?" Lin Feng asked. "Things are naturally not that simple. This is caused by the accumulation of too many conflicts over the years. These conflicts need a fuse. Hou-Yi shooting down the sun and Demon Emperor Di-Jun killing Hou-Yi are the fuse." The Black Bear Devil Lord said. "That battle was extremely tragic. Even Demon Emperor Chong-Lu died. Logically speaking, an existence like Demon Emperor Chong-Lu shouldn't have died in such a battle, right?" Lin Feng asked doubtfully. "Demon Emperor Chong-Lu died in the hands of the foreign creatures." The Black Bear Devil Monarch sighed. "The chaos of the ancient era engulfed the heavens. There was chaos everywhere, and the 10,000 worlds were in complete chaos. The foreign creatures were restless, and they descended upon the 3,000 great worlds. As a result, the cultivators of the 3,000 great worlds, who were originally in internal strife, once again united to resist the foreign creatures. However, after many years of consumption, the strength of the various powers of the 3,000 great worlds declined sharply. As a result, the battle against the foreign creatures was exceptionally difficult and also exceptionally cruel. Countless experts fell, and even the great emperors were no exception." The Black Bear Devil Monarch said. Lin Feng took a deep breath. The upheaval of the immemorial era had actually involved the foreign creatures. That was too terrifying. He knew how powerful the foreign creatures were. They were simply impossible to resist. Their battle prowess was heaven-defying. Lin Feng said, "That battle was too tragic." "Yes, it was too tragic. This world is cruel. Being able to survive is the most important thing." The Black Bear Devil Monarch said. Lin Feng asked, "What's in the Chonglu Devil Hall?" The Chonglu Devil Hall has a total of 7 levels. The Nihility God Realm, the Divine Flame Realm, the True Immortal Realm, the Heavenly God Realm, the Giant God Realm, the Quasi-Emperor Realm, and the Emperor Realm. You can open the first level of the hall. You can see for yourself. Then I'll have to trouble you to bring me there," Lin Feng said. "Follow me." The Black Bear Devil Monarch led the way. Lin Feng followed behind the Black Bear Devil Monarch. They arrived at the first level of the hall. The first level of the hall was densely covered with emperor inscriptions. However, these emperor inscriptions were intelligent. They knew that Lin Feng was the new master of the Devil Hall, so they didn't harm Lin Feng. He pushed open the door to the first level of the hall. After entering, Lin Feng discovered that the first level of the hall was extremely spacious. He immediately rolled his eyes and said, "Senior Devil Emperor, aren't you being too stingy? You didn't leave anything behind at all." The Black Bear Devil Monarch said, "It's not that the Devil Emperor is stingy, but some ordinary things, such as origin crystals and other cultivation resources, do not have the qualifications to be placed here by the Great Emperor. Moreover, if the Great Emperor also left cultivation resources here, wouldn't the people who obtained the Devil Hall become too comfortable? Would they lose their competitive spirit? Would they lose their ambition? The Great Emperor would naturally be worried about these things, so he did not leave behind any cultivation resources or other treasures. However, the Great Emperor did leave behind some Tao teachings and some special treasures. Every level of the hall has the Tao teachings and some extremely special treasures left behind by the Great Emperor." Lin Feng nodded. He walked towards the depths of the first level of the hall, where there was a stone platform. There were 3 items on the stone platform. Fire Devil Talisman. Lin Feng revealed a look of joy. He immediately saw the treasure, the Fire Devil Talisman. Obviously, the Fire Devil Talisman was the special treasure that the Black Bear Devil Monarch had mentioned. The other 2 items were 2 jade cylinders. Lin Feng picked up a jade cylinder and used his spiritual will to invade it. He discovered that this jade cylinder recorded how to control this Chonglu Devil Palace. As for the second jade cylinder, it recorded a set of 3,000 Great Das. Great Sacrifice Technique. This set of 3,000 Great Das was a sacred art that Lin Feng yearned for greatly. With this Great Sacrifice Technique, when Lin Feng was fighting, he could even directly sacrifice his opponent. This was the tyranny of the Great Sacrifice Technique. No matter who it was, they could sacrifice themselves, and through sacrifice, they could greatly increase their cultivation. Haha, not bad, not bad. The Fire Devil Talisman and the Great Sacrifice Technique are both treasures that I need. A smile appeared on Lin Feng's face. After he kept the 2 treasures, he used his spiritual will to invade the second jade cylinder to understand the method to control the Chonglu Devil Palace. One day later, Lin Feng had already grasped the method to control the Chonglu Devil Palace. Rumble. The Chonglu Devil Palace let out a violent trembling sound, and in the end, it turned into a ray of light and flew into Lin Feng's Dan-Si. Reincarnation Devil Palace. You actually managed to obtain this treasure as well. After the Chonglu Devil Palace was absorbed into his body, the Black Bear Devil Monarch discovered the Reincarnation Devil Palace and instantly exclaimed. Lin Feng felt as if there was an abyss that buried all life, wanting to devour him. He knew that he definitely couldn't stop, and he definitely couldn't turn back. Once he stopped, once he turned back, perhaps only death awaited him. What exactly is chasing you? The Black Bear Devil Monarch asked in a grave voice. Something related to the curse of the Celestial Masters sect. Lin Feng said. What? The curse of the Celestial Masters sect? So the rumors were actually true. The Celestial Masters sect is a cursed lineage. The Black Bear Devil Monarch's expression was uncertain. He then muttered, "Looks like I have to find a new master for the Great Emperor." Hearing the Black Bear Devil Monarch's muttering, Lin Feng immediately rolled his eyes. He wasn't dead yet. He rushed all the way into the depths. Gradually, Lin Feng felt his body getting colder and colder, and his consciousness was becoming more and more blurry. His speed also became slower and slower. Endless darkness enveloped him. Lin Feng even felt as if something was about to be born from within his body. He lowered his head to look and was shocked to discover blood-colored scales had actually appeared on his hands. This is the curse of the Celestial Masters? My consciousness is sinking. Am I going to become a monster? Lose myself? Lin Feng's face was filled with a bitter smile. His body fell head first to the ground, and he lost consciousness. Shwa. Suddenly, a rainbow-colored divine light wrapped around Lin Feng, and then quickly rushed into the depths. Bibi could sense the terrifying situation outside. The little guy rushed out from the mountain river ring. Hee hee hee. Vaguely, Lin Feng could hear a sinister laughter coming from behind. Darkness once again enveloped the earth and quickly chased after him. Its speed was too fast. Wherever the darkness passed, all the vicious beasts, They had all turned into beast skins. It was exactly the same as when a human cultivator turned into human skin. Bibi was so scared that she screamed again and again. The little guy was obviously frightened by the unknown existence that was chasing after them. However, the little guy didn't have any intention of running away. He wrapped around Lin Feng and continued to rush into the depths. Finally, Bibi saw a cave. He wrapped around Lin Feng and rushed into the cave. Endless darkness engulfed the cave. But soon, endless darkness flew out from the cave again. An evil wind swept through the world. How could this be? His corpse is still here. In the evil wind, a voice of disbelief came out. But soon, everything returned to normal. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Feng finally woke up. Ya, ya. After waking up, he heard Bibi's cry. When the little guy saw that Lin Feng had woken up, he was very excited and jumped around Lin Feng. Lin Feng still remembered the scene from before. When he felt that he was about to be swallowed by the endless darkness, it was Bibi who appeared and grabbed him to escape. He patted the little guy's head lovingly. Then, Lin Feng thought of the blood-colored scales that appeared on his hands. He quickly looked at his hands. Realizing that there were no blood-colored scales on his hands, Lin Feng immediately muttered. What was going on? Could it be because he was in a daze earlier? So he saw wrongly? After muttering in his heart, he got up from the ground and looked around. His expression suddenly changed. In this cave, there was a stone bed, and on the stone bed, a man was lying on his side. It was a young man. That man was incomparably handsome. He was even handsome to the point of being demonic. His aura was completely gone. Obviously, he had already died. However, even though he had been dead for so many years, Lin Feng still couldn't believe it. Outside his body, it was actually shrouded in domineering aura. A dead person, he could actually release his domineering aura. Lin Feng had never heard of such a thing. It was really too shocking. Moreover, the most important thing was, this dead cultivator's body was releasing the rarest purple supreme domineering aura. Was the underworld soldier protecting him? Who exactly was he? Chapter 1667. Since ancient times, the rarity of purple chi was even lower than the rarity of great emperors. Some great emperors didn't even have chi. Great emperors with chi were only a small part of the population, and great emperors with purple chi could be counted on one hand. And the man in front of him not only had the purple chi, the key was that after he died, the purple chi didn't dissipate, but lingered around his body. It was hard to imagine how powerful he was when he was alive to be able to do this. Lin Feng took a deep breath and carefully walked towards the mysterious corpse. F***CK. You're crazy. This is an existence with purple chi. Why are you approaching him? Be careful not to be killed by his purple chi. The Black Bear Devil King shouted. Lin Feng said, let's see if he has any treasures on him. The treasures of such an expert are definitely heaven-defying. If we miss this opportunity, we won't have another chance. The Black Bear Devil King rolled his eyes and said, I've seen people who don't care about their lives, but I've never seen someone who doesn't care about his life like you. You're completely crazy. Lin Feng did indeed see the treasures on the mysterious corpse. He wore a storage ring on his finger. This made Lin Feng happy. He muttered in his heart, how many treasures are there in this storage ring? However, when Lin Feng was 3 meters away from the mysterious corpse, the purple chi on the mysterious corpse actually dissipated and rushed towards Lin Feng. The Black Bear Devil King wailed, Lord Devil Emperor, your new disciple is too crazy. He's just a guy who doesn't know what's good for him. Now that he's touched the purple chi protecting his body, it seems like he's going to die. Seeing the purple chi enveloping him, Lin Feng's expression became serious. He quickly retreated, but found that his body couldn't move. He could only let the purple chi attack him. This was an extremely dangerous situation. Once the purple chi attacked his body, only death would await him. But at this time, the purple chi in Lin Feng's body seemed to have sensed something and directly came out of his body, confronting the purple chi of the mysterious corpse. Damn! The purple chi of the supreme chi. You actually possess the supreme purple domineering aura. When the black bear devil monarch saw the supreme purple tyrannical aura emanating from Lin Feng's body, he immediately cried out in surprise. He was almost scared to death, and his face was filled with shock. With Lin Feng's cultivation, he definitely shouldn't possess the supreme purple aura. However, Lin Feng possessed the supreme purple domineering aura. There was only one possibility. This was innate. Generally, people who were born with the supreme purple aura mostly inherited the bloodline of their parents. At this time, the black bear devil monarch knew that among Lin Feng's parents, one of them was definitely a heaven-defying race. Lin Feng made use of the confrontation between the two types of purple chi masters to quickly retreat. The purple chi masters in his body retracted. This was the overflowing of the supreme being's purple domineering aura. It wasn't triggered by Lin Feng. Therefore, Lin Feng's body didn't become weak because of the appearance of the supreme purple hockey. He stood more than 20 meters away and looked at the mysterious corpse with an uncertain expression. In the end, he gave up the idea of taking the mysterious corpse's storage ring. The danger was just too great. Lin Feng cupped his fists at the mysterious corpse and said, "Thank you, Senior, for scaring away that terrifying existence. Since you don't want me to take your things, I won't force you. I'll take my leave now." He didn't stay any longer and quickly left. Not long after Lin Feng left the Netherworld Island, he was attacked. The Snake Queen stepped out of the void and attacked Lin Feng with a palm. Lin Feng's expression changed, and he used the heaven-mending technique to dodge the terrifying attack. Lingering ghost. Lin Feng looked at the Snake Queen with a gloomy expression. The Snake Queen sealed the surrounding space and looked coldly at Lin Feng. "No matter how you jump around, you won't be able to escape from me. Have you thought about how you're going to die?" Lin Feng said indifferently, "Snake Queen, since you're so overbearing, so be it. Today, I won't show you any mercy and will subdue you." "Subdued me?" The Snake Queen rolled her eyes and sneered. "Brat, you're showing off in the wrong place. You're like a stray dog, yet you dare say that you can subdue me? I can crush you with one hand." Lin Feng took out a dozen divine weapons and was about to detonate them when the Snake Queen laughed. However, the Snake Queen sneered and said, "Do you think I will let you succeed twice with the same method?" The Snake Queen waved her right hand, and the divine weapons Lin Feng took out were restrained by an invisible force. Clearly, the Snake Queen had been prepared for this. She didn't give Lin Feng a chance to detonate his divine weapons. Swish! There was a flash of light, and the Snake Queen appeared in front of Lin Feng. She raised her right hand and sent a palm strike at Lin Feng. The Snake Queen knew that Lin Feng had many treasures on him, so she quickly closed the distance after restraining Lin Feng's divine weapons. She wanted to defeat Lin Feng directly and not give Lin Feng a chance to take out his divine weapons again. A good chance. When he saw the Snake Queen appear in front of him, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Lin Feng had wanted to take out a dozen divine weapons and detonate them to block the Snake Queen's attack like the first time. Then, he would leave. However, the Snake Queen didn't give him the chance to do so. If the Snake Empress attacked Lin Feng from a distance, Lin Feng would have died. Lin Feng wouldn't be able to withstand the Snake Queen's attack. Chapter 1668. Lin Feng looked at the Snake Queen indifferently and said, "You are now my prisoner, so I naturally have a way to make you acknowledge me as your master." He quickly flew into the distance and finally landed on an island. Lin Feng opened up a cave abode and threw the Snake Queen inside before sealing the cave abode with restrictions. "Let's break your magic power first." Lin Feng set up a dense array of restrictions and directly sealed the Snake Queen's magic power so that she was no longer a threat. The Snake Queen's pretty face was pale. She had roamed the world for millions of years and had seen all kinds of storms. In the past, a demonic patriarch had wanted to pluck her. At that time, the Snake Queen's cultivation had been weak. But in the end, she had used a scheme to kill that terrifying demonic patriarch. The Snake Queen had experienced too many dangers in her life. But every time, she had managed to avert danger. But this time, she had fallen into Lin Feng's hands. This was something that the Snake Queen had never dreamed of. Now, the The Snake Queen was extremely anxious as she tried to think of a countermeasure, but she realized that there was nothing she could do now. Snake Queen, an arrogant army is bound to be defeated. You are looking down on me, Lin Feng. Think about it. I am so young, yet I roam the world. So many people want to kill me and steal my treasures, but I still live a carefree life. How can I not be capable? Said Lin Feng, caressing the Snake Queen's beautiful face. Ma Mingbo had thought that Lin Feng wanted to deal with the Snake Queen because he wanted to take her into his harem. But it was not without basis. The Snake Queen was indeed too charming. The Snake Queen said coldly, "It's not that I was careless. It's because you suddenly mastered the immortal binding rope. You didn't have this treasure last time. If you hadn't suddenly obtained this treasure, I would have killed you with a single slap." Obviously, the Snake Queen was extremely unwilling to accept her failure. Lin Feng said, "Snake Queen, it's useless to say all this now. I'll give you a choice now. Do you want to acknowledge me as your master, or do you want me to convert you?" "Kill me," the Snake Queen said through gritted teeth. Lin Feng's right hand moved around the snake's body. He smiled as he said, "I can't bear to kill you. You're so powerful and so enchanting. You're simply a stunner. I like beautiful women like you, and keeping you by my side as a bed-warming maid would be quite good." The Snake Queen was so angry that she wanted nothing more than to kick Lin Feng to death. She was the Snake Empress, a high and mighty figure. Now, she was actually called a bed-warming maid. However, the Snake Queen could only glare fiercely at Lin Feng. But very quickly, the Snake Queen's face turned red. "Stop!" The Snake Queen bit her red lips and said. Lin Feng smiled. "Have you made up your mind? You're shameless." However, the experts from the three great immortal sects wanted to kill the Stone Man of the mermaid race. This was also an extremely difficult task. Moreover, at this time, a few powerful figures appeared to mediate. Because of this, the two sides stopped fighting. Lin Feng and the Snake Queen also watched the scene of the experts from the three great immortal sects fighting the Stone Man of the mermaid race. After the Snake Queen was nourished, she became even more enchanting. After seeing a few terrifying experts come out to mediate this battle, Lin Feng and the Snake Queen left and returned to the ancient capital of the Netherworld Sea. Now that a strong cultivator has come to mediate, I'm afraid this battle will end with negotiations. I think the Nine States Alliance's fleet will go to the Nine States very soon. I've already decided to follow the Nine States Alliance's fleet to the Nine States. You can stay in the Ocean of Hell for now and help me recruit strong cultivators from the Ocean of Hell. With your cultivation and reputation, it should be easy for you to recruit strong cultivators." Lin Feng said. The Snake Queen said, "Yes, Master. Qin will definitely help Master recruit experts and form a force that belongs to Master." Lin Feng nodded. In the next few days, the Nine States Alliance and the mermaid race stopped fighting and both sides began to negotiate. But the content of the negotiations, it was unknown. Obviously, the mermaid race would have to pay a huge price this time to settle this matter. Because, after the three great immortal sects joined in, the mermaid race was obviously at a disadvantage. However, the experts from the three great immortal sects did not force the mermaid race into a dead end. This was because once the mermaid race was forced into a dead end, when the time came for them to counterattack, the three great immortal sects and the Nine States Alliance would probably suffer heavy losses, and negotiations were the best choice. 10 days later, the Nine States Alliance's fleet headed to the Nine States. Lin Feng followed behind the Nine States Alliance's fleet and headed to the Nine States. There were many cultivators like Lin Feng. The Nine States Alliance's fleet did not stop the cultivators behind them. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.